I am Hema Kannan, known to many of you as the Lotus Shakti. I'm very privileged to collaborate with Sanskriti Academy for my first ever event of this scale. Today, Vinay will take us through a story that is comprised of various layers. In the heart of ancient wisdom, amidst the cosmic dance of creation and destruction, lies the sacred union of Lord Shiva, the eternal ascetic, and Goddess Shakti, the embodiment of primal energy. Their union is not merely a union of two celestial beings, but a convergence of opposing forces, a dance of yin and yang, creating a harmonious balance that sustains the universe itself.
Bowing down to the feet of Vishwanatha and Vishalakshi Annapurna in Kashi, who are eternally present in Kashi, in Kailasha, in Chidambaram, a glimpse of which you just saw. So many places, but today, who have specially arrived here in Thane for all of us. So when we talk about Shiva Kalyanam itself, this is probably one of those few Kalyanams, just like Vishnu and Lakshmi, which have various versions. So you have Meenakshi Sundareshwara Kalyanam. I'm not referring to the Netflix show. I'm talking about the actual one. You have Kamakshi Ekambranatha Kalyanam. You have Parvatavardhini and Rameshwara Kalyanam at the tip of the Samudram, by the base of the country, at the tip there. You have various versions. You have Kedarnath and Gauri Kalyanam that happens in the mountains. Various ideas of the same thing, and there are differences in the details, differences in the nuances of all of them. So within each, you will have variations of the same story. So Meenakshi Sundareshwara Kalyanam has a different version in various Tamil literature, a different version within Samskrita Bhasha, and all of these sometimes can become a little confusing. So today I just want to clarify that the predominant story that we are going to be drawing from is Gauri Kalyanam. This is not referring to Meenakshi in Madurai, not referring particularly to Kamakshi in Kanchipuram, but Gauri and Shankara Kalyanam that happened in the mountains, or that happens in the mountains, let me say. This helps us understand that this particular tale also has about 49 recorded versions in Sanskritam alone. Outside of this, within regional literature, in Telugu, Kannada, Tamilam, Marathi, Hindi, there are various versions of this. So today is not something that we have picked from one source, but we have taken very beautiful instances that come across various renditions, across various versions of this. And our objective today somewhere is to experience this Kalyanam with the beauty in diversity rather than hunting for differences. We're going to actually celebrate that diversity. So the tale itself is probably well known to most of us. But I think today we will spend a little time talking about lesser known aspects in these well-known stories. So we all know the story of Daksha and Daksha's daughter Sati and all of this. But in this story, when we quickly tell this tale, we sometimes miss out some very beautiful nuances. So the story for us starts when Daksha decides to populate the earth. And Daksha realizes that to populate this, he needs that primordial energy. He needs Adishakti, he needs Jagannata's blessings. Daksha, like many people who came after him and alongside and even before him, has a desire that the mother goddess should be born to him. This is something every parent desires. When they wish to conceive, they hope that an amsha of that divine will enter their own child. But for Daksha, it is not an amsha that he wants. He wants Jagannata directly. So he does a tapas to Adishakti, and Adishakti appears to him and says, "What is your ask?" So he says, "I want you to come as my daughter." She stipulates a condition then and there. This is often missed out when we tell the story. At that time itself, she says, "I will come, but remember that I am eternally belonging to Shiva. Shivasya sahaja dhruva is what the Upanishads say, that I eternally belong to Shiva. So I will come, but on the condition that you make me marry Shiva, that you place my hand into his." Daksha agrees. But as she's come, who has come? Mahamaya only has come. So Mahamaya deludes him, and as she grows with time, Daksha believes that he owns her. When Daksha believes that he owns this child, that he has the right to every decision that she makes, he sees her growing, and he sees that she's deeply attracted to Shiva. He thinks that it's a phase, and Daksha doesn't think very highly of Shiva. He has much greater respect for Narayana, because Narayana he considers as his own grandfather. Because Daksha is the son of Brahma. Brahma comes from Narayana's Nabhi Kamalam, from the lotus navel in Narayana. So he considers Vishnu to be much more superior to Shiva. But Sati is going on in this, and Sati's love for Shiva doesn't give her time to focus on anybody else. And when Sati comes of marriageable age, Daksha asks her, who are you going to marry? I'm going to arrange a Swayamvara for you. And she said, what is the requirement for a Swayamvara? I've already chosen a husband. Daksha doesn't listen. He still goes ahead and organizes the Swayamvara. Sati comes to the Swayamvara as well. And when she comes to the Swayamvara, she looks at all the kings that are present on either side of the Sabha. And she's carrying a mala because she gets to choose. It is Swayamvara. She gets to choose her Vara. And holding that garland of Bilvapatras, she drops it in Akasha and utters 5 syllables. What those 5 syllables are, we will come to later. As soon as she utters those 5 syllables, the mala falls straight in from Akasha. Parameshwara descends right there in front of Sati, and now he is the chosen husband. Now, Daksha's condition is very clearly met. Daksha wanted his daughter to attend the Swayamvara and to choose a husband. She chose a husband who was not even invited to the Swayamvara, but she chose a husband. So Daksha is obliged and he has to go ahead and conduct the wedding. A very unhappy Daksha goes ahead and does this. And we know the story that goes on from there, that there is some point when Shiva does not stand up when Daksha arrives at a yajna, and Daksha feels very slighted. Rather than focusing on this, we focus on the beautiful conversation that happens in Kailasha when Sati finds out through Narada, who plays a very important role in this story. At every critical juncture, Narada will come. So Narada sees that there is a yajna that is being organized to insult Shiva, but Shiva is least affected. He is eternally in Shantam, Shashvatam. He is in his own zone. So Narada wants to come and intentionally ruffle some feathers. So he comes and he looks at Sati and he says, he goes to Shiva first and he says, how come you're here in Kailasa? Your father-in-law is arranging such a Mahayajnam over there. So Shiva does not respond. He says, let him do what he wants. Let me do what I want to do. Everybody is happy where they are. Narada realizes no point talking to this guy. I know how to move this story. I'll go straight to her. So he goes over there, and when he lights that fire, he says, all your sisters are going. Everybody is going. How is it that you are not going? So Sati is immediately confused as to how did the invite miss her? How did her father miss inviting her? And when he lands up, so she goes straight to Shiva and she says, let's go to my father's yajnam. Shiva says, no, we're not invited. Let's not go. This is, interestingly, for those of you familiar with Telugu, this is where a very famous Telugu saying comes from, saying, if you go to unexpected or you go uninvited to religious functions, it is equivalent to death. The root of that particular samhita, as we call it, or that phrase, comes from this. That Shiva tells her, we are uninvited to this auspicious occasion. It's not good to go. And Shiva's words are so powerful, that is effectively what it resulted in. But Sati was relentless. She said, he doesn't need to invite us. I am, after all, his daughter. And the argument intensifies between both of them. And at some point, when Shiva sees that she's very stubborn, he says, you know what? Of course you have made up your mind. After all, you are Dakshayani only. And he gets up and walks off. She hears that last bit and she gets angry. She said, what did you call me? He said, that's what you are, like your stubborn father Daksha. He is also a maha-stubborn guy. You are also equally stubborn. Dakshayani you are. So you go, do what you want to do. And it is at this point when Shiva is walking off that all of a sudden, in front of him, he's trying to walk away from Sati because they've had an argument. And in that moment, when he's trying to get away from her, suddenly in front of him, there is a blinding light. And in that blinding light, Shiva is not able to see, so he turns the other way. When he turns the other way, the same blinding light appears. Shiva turns to the 4 sides, north, south, east, and west. All the 4 sides, there is some form of light. Shiva tries to escape in the in-between directions, north, east, south, west. But in these 4 directions as well, a beam of light appears. Shiva realizes, I can't deal with this, and he looks up to try and escape that because it's blinding him. He can't do that as well because it has come up, it has come below him. So there is Shiva in the center and 10 beams of light, 8 around him, 1 above him, 1 below him. All have surrounded him in such a way that now he can't move. And when Shiva is stuck like this, each of those beams of light take a form. And each of them is huge. Apatalana bhastalanta bhuvana brahmandam avespurat. That each is stretching from the horizon all the way from the tip of the Akasha till Patalam. And in those forms, Shiva is unable to make out what is happening. But each of those forms take 10 different forms of 10 goddesses. And each of them speak in one collective voice, saying, who did you call me? You thought I am Dakshayani. You reduced me to being Daksha's daughter. Look at these 10 forms around you, Shiva. These are 10 of my most supreme forms. These are 10 forms of my knowledge. 10 forms of absolute Parashakti. These 10 forms, are, as many of you would have guessed, 10 is Dasha, These are extraordinary forms, Maha Vidyas. These are the Dasha Maha Vidyas that we know, starting with Kali Vidya, Tara Vidya, Chinnamasta Vidya, Kamala Vidya, Bagalamukhi Vidya, Dhumavati, and so on, Matangi. In this, many of you are familiar with the concept of Sri Vidya Sampradayam or Sri Vidya Upasana. Sri Vidya is one of the Vidyas over here. So within all of these 10, now Shiva is still stuck. So he looks and he says, what do you want me to do? And she smiles again. 10 different pairs of eyes are looking at him, and 10 mouths smile at the same time and say, I said I will go to my father's yajnam, I will go. But I will give you a task. When I am gone, look at these 10 forms that you see around you. You will write down the tantra, the way of worshipping. Tantra, as I have clarified on multiple occasions, tantra does not mean some humpat and some skulls falling out of the sky. Tantra is a technical system of education. In Karnataka, if you go, engineering colleges are called Tantrika Vidyalaya. They are not teaching you some crazy things over there. Okay, so Tantra is the formalized system of worship. So Shiva has to now code the formalized system of worshipping Kali, the way to worship Tara, the way to worship Chinnamasta, and all the forms. And that is why, if you look at any of the Dashamahavidyas, in whichever system, Shiva is the guru for them. You cannot reach Shakti without Shiva. So now Shakti has given Shiva this homework and she has gone. So Shiva is very, very busy with all of this. And meanwhile, Sati appears at her father's yajnam. And as we all know, Daksha insults her over there. And when she goes to talk to him, and she says, how did you forget to invite us? And she said, he says, I didn't want to slight you, but I thought you will come with that Kapali, with that fellow who wears all of these skulls on his garland as a garland. So I was not feeling comfortable to have both of you over here, but I'm very happy that you came. It is at this point that Sati realizes enough is enough. Before I took Janma as his daughter, I reminded him that I am eternally belonging to Shiva. He very hesitatingly gave me to Shiva in marriage because society was watching him, not because he wanted to. Now, at every given instance, he's slighting Shiva. I am no longer wanting to be associated with him in any way at all. So Sati, as you all know, this is the known part of the story, that is why I'm proceeding a little faster. It is at this point that Sati leaves her body. Through her yogam, she leaves the body, and with Sati's deha tyagam, the yajnam is now stopped. Daksha's yajnam, and Sati has not come alone. Shiva has sent some of his ganas with her to watch out for her. As soon as Sati leaves her body, news goes to Kailasa. When news goes to Kailasa, Shiva takes 2 strands of his hair and hits them on a rock over there and sends down from those 2 strands come 2 phenomenal devatas, 2 devatas that protect bhaktas wherever they are spoken about. If you pay attention to Shiva Kalyanam, to the story that begins from this point, you will see that in this part of the story, that is from the time of Sati's arrival till the time of Parvati's arrival, various forms of Shiva come. Each of these forms of Shiva is a mantra murti. So there is an associated mantra, associated dhyana murti, associated form that immediately emerges. Here, the first form is about to come. From his hair comes the Swarupam that protects, because now this Swarupam is going to destroy Daksha's yajnam because he's come from Shiva's anger. But this Swarupam protects us. This is none other than Veerabhadra. The word Bhadra always signifies protection. And when Veerabhadra comes as the masculine force, his counterpart comes as Bhadrakali. She also goes with Veerabhadra to Daksha Yajnam, and Shiva sends them there and says, destroy this Yajnam completely, because the very basis of this Yajnam is adharmic. He did this Yajnam not with any idea of purification, not with any idea of Punya Karma. He did it with the objective of slighting me, and now I have lost Sati because of his arrogance, so go and destroy this. So Veerabhadra and Bhadrakali proceed, and they go to Daksha's Yajnam and destroy it altogether. This point, Daksha has invited all the devatas. Now this is the beautiful, the nuanced bit in Shiva Kalyanam. It is not always that in various stories, for example in the Mahabharata, very clearly you can see Kauravas versus Pandavas. You're able to make out black and white. But over here, it's not always so simple. It's not always so direct. There are devatas in the Yajnam as well. It is not that all the devatas were siding with Shiva and they said, no, we will not go to a Yajnam that Shiva is not invited to. They said, we are invited. Namge no, if Shiva is invited or not invited, that's not our problem. We should go. So each of the devatas there also now gets paid back for that. This is the beautiful system of karma that keeps making an entry in this system. If you even read the Shiva Ashtotram, you will see that there are the last few names of Shiva. Bhaganetra Bhide Namaha. The one who pulls out Bhaga. Bhaga is one of the 12 forms of Surya. The one who pulled out Surya's eyes. Veerabhadra does that to Surya because Surya attends that yajna. Pusha Danta Bhide Namaha. Veerabhadra pulls out the teeth of Pusha. Pushan is another form of Surya. Because Pushan was there at the Yajnam, Pushan was quietly supporting Daksha. Bhagavad Gita talks about the same idea. It says if you are quiet, if you are a silent supporter when something wrong is happening, you will also receive that karma phalam. You cannot just fold your hands and say, I didn't do it, so I'm not responsible. You may not have done it, but you chose to be a silent spectator during this entire process. So each of the devatas is paying for what they have done. Although they have Shiva Bhakti in their hearts, they did not loudly oppose Daksha or contest him. Daksha goes running to Vishnu, who also came over here. And he tells Vishnu, when I was doing this yajnam, I requested you for something. I requested you that you should be Yajna Rakshakaha. Vishnu is eternally Yajna Swarupa. As you read in the Vishnu Sahasranamam every day, Yajno, Yajnapatari Yajno, Yajvango, Yajnavahanaha. Everything about Yajnam suggests Vishnu. So Vishnu's eternal sthanam is that of Yajna Rakshaka. So Daksha says, I came to you and I asked for your protection, that you will protect this Yajnam. Now Veerabhadra and Bhadrakali have come with all these Shiva Ganas and they are destroying my Yajnam. Isn't it your responsibility to protect my Yajnam? Vishnu reminds Daksha and he says, you came and asked me, no doubt about it. But when you asked me, I said something to you which you did not pay attention because you were in your own hurry to finish and to leave. I said, I will protect your Yajnam as much as you called me to protect your Yajnam. This is one beautiful rahasyam of Shiva Kalyanam, which we will explore in just a minute. So Vishnu says, I will only protect as much as I can protect. Beyond that, what has to happen will happen. What Vishnu meant by that sentence, we'll come to in a few minutes. Now Vishnu has to come, he still has his responsibility, his badhyata as Yajna Rakshaka. So Vishnu comes face to face with Veerabhadra. This is a very beautiful moment because Veerabhadra is consumed by the anger that his Swami has been hurt. So for him, Shiva has sent him with the objective of Daksha Yajna Vinasham, and indeed it is Daksha Yajna Vinasham that he will do. So for him, he is not seeing who it is in front of him. He sees that it is Vishnu and they get into a very serious combat. Vishnu releases the Sudarshana Chakra on Veerabhadra. Veerabhadra swallows the Sudarshana Chakra. Don't worry, Vishnu gets it back from Shiva at a later incident. And if I forget, you remind me as to what that incident is. I'll come and complete it for you. Sudarshana Chakra is gone and Veerabhadra looks at Vishnu and says, this is the Yajna Rakshaka. This is the person who is enabling Daksha's Yajnam. So I should not let this go on. Veerabhadra picks up his Trishulam and he's ready at that point to stab Vishnu with it. At this point, Veerabhadra's hand freezes in the air and he hears a female voice. A female who is no longer there in that vicinity. His own Swami Shakti, that is Sati. He hears Sati's voice in the Akasham, and through that Akashavani, Sati says, Kopecha Kalika Rupa. When I am angry, I become Kalika. Sangrame Durga Rupa. When I am in a state of war, when I am getting ready for war, I become Durga. Saumye Bhavani Rupoham. When I am in my pleased state, I am known as Bhavani. Pumrupa Vishnu Vigraha. When I choose to become a male, I become Vishnu. So this is Sati, Shakti, who is speaking, saying, I have four forms predominantly. Kali when I am angry, Durga when I am getting ready for war, Bhavani when I am pleased, and if I choose to be a male, if I choose to take a masculine energy, that energy is Vishnu. So the one that you are about to hurt is none other than me. Put down that Trishulam Veerabhadra. Veerabhadra is absolutely stunned. He doesn't know what's going on, but he knows that he will never defy what his Swami and what his Swami Shakti say. So he puts the Trishulam down, and at this point, most of the devatas who have come are injured, and the entire Yajnam is absolutely, it's looking like a battlefield because of all the Shivaganas and the absolute pandemonium that they have created. Brahma looks at this and he says, no matter what the intention of the Yajnam was, a Yajnam that has begun must complete. Otherwise, it's not good for Lokakshemam. The only way this Yajnam will get completed is if these Shivaganas are pacified. But these Shivaganas are not going to be pacified by themselves. We have to go to Parameshwara and we have to ask for his permission. Because if he asks them to step back, they will. Now, look at the odd dynamic over here. Everybody is doing, all the Shivaganas also are here on Parameshwara's behalf. All the Devatas want to appease Parameshwara. But who is going to go and talk to him? Because he has just lost Sati and he is fuming. So everybody pulls back saying, not us, not us. But Brahma convinces Indra and the other devatas saying, you took part in this yajnam, so you must own up to the responsibility now of pacifying Shiva. Come with me to Kailasa. Brahma takes them to Kailasa and everybody is terrified, wondering how is he going to be, how is this, the Raudram, who is going to be able to stand in front of him and even apologize? We can't even make eye contact with him. But when they go there, when they go to Kailasa, Indra, when they enter the Kailasa Dwaram, Kailasam is a little different from the TV serials and the cinematic Kailasa you see, where there is one solitary, sad little peak, and on top of one small rock, half the size of this seat, Shiva is sitting. No. Kailasa is a massive bhavanam in itself. It is as vast as Vaikuntham or Manidvipam. And when they enter the gates of Kailasa, in the innermost prakaram, there are various prakarams, various enclosures within Kailasa. When they enter the innermost prakaram, that is where Shiva resides. But over there, in that bhavanam, they're hesitating to go. And Indra looks around and he says, what is happening here? I don't recognize this. They expected to see Shiva in a very, very angry state. But instead, he sees something so extraordinary and he looks at Brahma and he says, what is this? That extraordinary and that strange phenomenon that Indra and all the Devatas and Brahma see is Chitram Vatataror Mule Vriddha Shishyaha Gurur Yuvan. Very strange sight. There's a huge banyan tree. Akshaya Suvarna Vatavriksha Mula Sthite. At the base of this massive golden banyan tree, Chitram, there is something strange. Vriddha Shishyaha Gurur Yuva. There are 4 disciples. And are those disciples young? No, those disciples are old, ancient. Vriddha Shishya. And who is their guru? Their guru is a 16-year-old child. Vriddha Shishyaha Gurur Yuva Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyanam. Now when a guru has to teach, if 4 of his students are seated around him, he will say something to them. But this guru is not saying anything to them. He's just looking at them in silence. Gurostu maunam vyakhyanam shishyastu chinna samshayaha. All the doubts of those shishyas are addressed just by his silence. Indra looks and he says, who is this and where is Shiva? Brahma points and says, this Divyamangala Swarupam that you are seeing is none other than Dakshinamurti. This is Shiva as the primordial guru. This is the second Swarupam of Shiva that comes here. This form of Shiva, Indra is very confused as to, just now look at the situation story-wise, right? How do you make sense of this? This is when we know that Puranas cannot be just taken as linear tales in which you read Ghattam after Ghattam and then quickly move on. How is it that in such a climatic moment when Shiva has lost Sati, at least as per the Leela, Shiva and Shakti are eternally together, yes, but that is Tattvam. In terms of the story, Sati has just left her body. So how is it that now Shiva, instead of being angry, is actually the very epitome of Shantam? How is he so calm? Look at the beautiful form of Dakshinamurti. So as many of you know, Dakshinamurti, Shiva is the guru. He holds the Jnana Mudra or the Bhadra Mudra or the Chin Mudra, and he holds an Akshamala, he holds a Kamandalu, and he holds the Vedas. He is 4-handed and he is seated at the base of a banyan tree. Now if you look at this form of Dakshinamurti, he is seated in the north. So he is called Dakshinamurti because he is Dakshina Abhimukham, meaning he is facing the southern direction. But look at the body of Shiva. Eternally, as you all know, Shiva is called Ardhanarishwara, right? That the right side of Shiva is Shiva or the masculine element. The left side is Shiva or the feminine element. Shiva or the feminine or Shakti is in the Vama Bhagam. That is the left-hand side. The right-hand side is called as the Dakshina Bhagam. So this is the Dakshina Bhagam of every human being. This is the Dakshina Hastam, this is the Vama Hastam, right hand and left hand. Now, in the story, the Vama Bhagam, the left side, has gone inside. When we say Sati has left her body, it means that she has retracted herself back into Shiva. Now go to the body of Dakshinamurti. The body is made up of left and right. The right side is Dakshinam, the left side is Vamam. Vamam is no longer there. Vamam is no longer visible. Vamam is gone. What is left? Dakshinam is left. So Dakshinamurti. That is why he is called as Dakshinamurti. That is why if you look at Dakshinamurti, you will actually see Ardhanarishwara inside Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti has on his right ear, he wears the Kundala. Kundala is worn by male deities. On his left ear, he wears the Tatanka. Tatanka is worn by female deities. Just like Dakshinamurti, only one other form of Shiva does that. That is your Nataraja. Nataraja wears on his right ear the Kundala and on his left ear the Tatanka, signifying that both Shiva and Shakti are within him. So now he's here as a Leela to let everybody know that Shakti is eternally inside me. And when Indra and all of them come, Shiva is already pleased. He's already in this state of Mauna Vyakya, Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam. So Indra begs him saying, please come. Brahma begs him saying, come and ask your Ganas to be Shantam and let that Yajnam be completed. So Shiva appears and he comes to the Yajnasthanam. He looks around and Shiva is Mrityunjaya after all. How long does it take for him to bring back anybody who is gone? He brings all of the Devatas back to life. All of the bloodshed, all of that is gone in a second by his mere arrival. Only Daksha's head that was cut off by Virabhadra, that head remains and the body remains. Brahma says, please put him back. There we understand what is the beautiful usage of words. Dakshinamurti is the one who has come here, and Daksha is the other. If you take the split of the words, that's when Puranas are not just trying to tell you a very action-packed Steven Spielberg tale. They are also trying to communicate something. The word Daksha represents capability. Daya Dakshinyam, as we say. That somebody who is capable, if that person has daya or compassion, then it's a great combination. If somebody is very capable, and let's say there is an accident on the road, someone who's very physically abled and is strong, if they have no compassion to the person who has just had the accident, they will not pick them up. They will not take them to the hospital. They will not ensure that that person is taken care of. But if somebody has only daya and has only compassion but does not have the capability, then also the lokam around them suffers. So daya and dakshinyam are a pair. Daksha represents pure capability, only capability. But that capability is not founded in any sense of compassion. Whereas Dakshinamurti is the very epitome of daya and dakshinyam. Dakshinamurti is the form of that. So Shiva takes pity on Daksha, and it's also a beautiful reminder that Daksha's head is cut off because capability alone does not fetch you very far. If you don't have humane qualities, if you don't know how to bow your head down and put your arrogance in place, then he will do it even if you don't do it. But when Brahma comes, Shiva is Dayaswarupa, he is Karunaswarupa. So he takes Daksha's body and he asks for the sacrificial goat over there. He asks for the head of that goat to be brought and placed on Daksha's head. Why this? Why a goat? Why not any other animal? Because now, after this, Daksha is eternally going to remain with a goat head. As a reminder, Daksha was so proud of his thinking. He used to think in the three lokas, there is absolutely nobody who knows strategy and intellect better than me. But now every time he thinks, he's realizing that he's thinking with a goat's head that is largely used to repetition. In fact, from here this folk tale comes. Many of you must have heard the Shatarudriyam, the Rudram that comes in the Yajurvedam. The Rudram is made of two components, the Namakam and the Chamakam. In the Namakam, it is called Namakam typically because you get Namo, Namo and Namo repeatedly comes over there, Nama, Nama. But in the Chamakam, you have Chame, Chame that keeps come. Agnish Chame, Gharmash Chame, Kash Chame, Suryash Chame. It is, a folk tale says that Daksha was the first person who said all of this because for a goat, it is easy to say Chame, 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 Chame. And that is where the Chamakam came from. That is not where the Chamakam came from in reality. But it's a beautiful reminder to say that, if you are not careful, that is what we'll land up with. Not necessarily a literal head of a goat, but Daksha's eternal reminder not to be arrogant is given to him in the form of a goat head. Daksha's pride is quelled for sure, and Daksha is very, very apologetic to Shiva now. But of what use? When Shiva comes, all the Dakshinamurti Tattvam now gives rise to something else. The third form of Shiva comes. When he sees, he's replaced the Yajnam as is. But when he comes here, he sees something that is the biggest trigger. For a human life itself, we know what the loss of a loved one is. For although it is Tattvam, although it is pure philosophy, at the end of the day, it is still Sati in a physical form who is here now, who was here, but now there is only her body. Shiva looks at that body and all his sense of anger, control, everything is relinquished. And he picks up that body and he says, up till now, the only reason I had to exist was her. We will decode this statement later. Up till now, the only reason I had to exist was her. Now she is not here. And that rage starts to manifest. So he picks her up and he goes to the Gagana Mandalam, into the skies. And over there he starts a Tandavam. Shiva's Tandavam is always of various types. There is a Sandhya Tandavam, there is a Pralaya Tandavam, and there is an Akala Tandavam. Akala, it is untimely. That Tandavam, which is destroying, which is threatening to destroy the entire universe because of its untimely placement and the energy intensity, that Tandavam he begins. That Tandavam is so overwhelming that the Devatas are immediately seized by panic and they go to Narada saying, what do we do? Narada immediately runs to only one person who can manage Shiva's energy. That one person is none other than Narayana. So they immediately go to Narayana and say, Narayana, we can't manage this. This Tandavam is going to destroy the world. But we can't go and stand in front of him and say, don't do this. Because first of all, we all went to Daksha's Yajnam. We have no face to show him. And secondly, when he is dancing like that, who can stand in front of him? There are only three people who can stand in front of Shiva, whatever the kind of Tandavam it is, whether it is a happy one or an angry one. Those three people are all belonging to his family, Shakti and his two children. In fact, the Ganapati Talam that you saw is Ganapati. It is said that Ganapati Talam was composed when somebody had a vision of Ganapati dancing in front. When Nataraja was dancing in Tilevanam, in Chidambaram, Ganapati couldn't sit quiet anymore in the audience, so he jumped up from the audience and he danced, and that is what got recorded as Ganapati Talam. So Ganapati, but these children have not yet come. No, they are going to come much later in the story. Shakti is not here. But Shakti said something. She said, my masculine form is there in Vaikuntha. invoke that form. So Narada runs to Vishnu and says, please control that Tandavam. So Vishnu goes, but Vishnu also sees that there is a method to do something. You cannot go there, pacify him and sit down. And this is also what we call as toxic positivity. When somebody is struggling, you go there and sit down and say, why are you crying? There is absolutely no need to cry. Don't you know everybody has troubles? You know, in my life, and then make the entire story about them. That's not what Narayana is going to do. Narayana looks at the moment. He realizes that this Tandavam is extremely rhythmic. So Shiva is putting his foot down at certain rhythms, at certain beats. So Vishnu realizes, very quickly Vishnu realizes that the biggest trigger for Shiva is that he's holding Sati's body and dancing. The second that body is gone, the second Shiva stops seeing that body, the trigger will reduce and his intensity will reduce. So Vishnu matches, he takes a Sudarshana Chakram and he matches with Shiva's every beat. He matches cutting off the body piece by piece. Shiva doesn't even realize because Shiva's eyes are closed and he's crying. So in that intensity, Shiva is not realizing that the Sudarshan Chakram is coming and cutting off one piece because it's matching his beat, so he cannot hear it as well. And by the end of it, as this body is cut, it falls in various places. As you know, many of this, or each of these places where the body of Sati falls is known as a Shakti Pitham. We will decode the idea of Shakti Pitham a little later. But now, as the very last part of Sati's body has fallen, Shiva realizes that whatever he was holding suddenly feels light. There's nothing in his hands anymore. And he realizes, oh my goodness, there is no Sati. First, he found out that there was no Sati. Now he realizes there is no Sati's Deham. Even her body is not there. And Shiva takes all of that anger that is emerging from him and he says, I curse whoever did this. To know the pain of separation from their wife, they will also be separated from their wife just as they have separated me from Sati. Narayana is standing at the back and he smiles. It is at this point that Narada comes running and bows down in front of Paramashiva and he says, Shiva, Shiva, what have you said? And Shiva says, who did this, Narada? And Narada says, Narayana did this. Shiva bites his lip and he says, Narayana did this. Now, if you go read the Shiva Ashtotram, one of Shiva's names is Vishnu Vallabhaya Namaha, one who is most fond of Vishnu. So Shiva and Vishnu, contrary to here where Vaishnavas and Shaivas are fighting, over there they are eternally most fond of each other. So Shiva is so unhappy that he has just cursed Narayana unwittingly. He didn't intend that, but his sadness came out like that. And when a Devata is cursing, of course it will manifest. At this point, Narayana comes in front of Shiva, and Narayana smiles, and Shiva says, I didn't know what I was doing. It was just my sadness that Sati is gone. So Narayana says, no, this is a very useful curse for me because I have to go down to Bhulokam now. There's one Rakshasa who is waiting over there. He's all the way below the tip of Bharatavarsha in Lankapuri. That Rakshasa, I needed some context to go and to actually kill him. Now this curse that you give, I'll keep it in my pocket. It will come in very useful in that avataram. Which avataram is that? Rama avataram, as we all know. Look at Sita and Rama and how they get separated. The moolam of that is over here. But Shiva is so fond of Vishnu that he will not leave it at this point. He said, no, I am the one who pronounced this curse. So I am the one who is responsible for separating you both. So I am the one who is going to come and join you both in that avataram. That is my promise. And that Swarupam is none other than Kanchanadri Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Taramula Vasinam Bhavayami Pavamananandanam. The son of Pavana is none, or Hanuman is none other than Rudra himself. That's why if you read the Hanuman Ashtotram or any text related to Hanuman, even the Hanuman Chalisa, you will see Shankara Suvana Kesari Nandan. Shankara Suvan, he is an Amsha of Shiva because Shiva came to bring Vishnu and Lakshmi back. That is the entire Sundarakanda. But that is a totally different tangent that I'm scared to get into right now. So in this, the entire Ramayana Rahasyam is also hidden here as a bijam over here. And somewhat mollified now, Shiva realizes and tells Vishnu that, okay, now I do not have Sati's body with me anymore. And I'm feeling the pangs of separation. So I want to go to one place. And that one place alone can take my energy because this one place is from where the entire universe originated. And that place is where I will go and do my tapas quietly. We are fortunate that that place is in Bharatavarsham, that is Kamakhya Pitam in modern day Assam. In this is Jagat Yoni Sthanam. It is there that the entire universe originates from. This is one beautiful place where Dakshinacharam and Vamacharam both meet. This is where Vaidikam and Tantrikam, both of these schools meet. That is where Ghora and Aghoris meet. There is so much power in Kamakhya Kshetram. And Shiva went and added to that power over there by doing tapas at some point of time. So Shiva has gone. Now, meanwhile, Vishnu has gone back to Vaikuntha, everything else is going on. But whenever there is an imbalance of energies, up till now Shiva and Shakti were together, so everything was balanced. Shiva and Shakti are separate, so there is a rise of demonic forces. So there is the next Rakshasa in line, that rises, that is Tarakasura. And if you actually, most of us think, oh my goodness, all these Rakshasas have the same boring story. Each of them comes, asks for immortality. But actually their creative genius is quite amazing, because each of them has a specific ask, if you look at it. One says not inside, not outside, not here, not there, not by weapons, not without weapons, not when it's day, not when it's night, etc., etc. One says not this, not this, not this, but man, I don't really care much about man. Another says anyone should not kill me, but woman, I don't think much of woman. Well, the Rakshasas that I named are namely Hiranyakashipu, Ravana and Mahishasura in that order. So here comes one more Rakshasa with a very creative demand from Brahma. He says, he looks at the current arrangement of Srishti and he realizes Shiva and Shakti are separate. Shakti has left her body, so she's not here. So he asks Brahma saying, I should be killed only by the son of Shiva and Shakti, because he's quite confident that that's not going to happen anytime soon. What can Brahma do? Everybody Papa blames Brahma, but any is saying, why did Brahma have to give that varam? But Daivanugraham, or the grace of Daivas, is very simple. It's just like connecting any electrical device to a socket. You connect it, you can use that electricity either to electrocute somebody or you can use it for a certain appliance. So when you invoke that Devata will bless you. What you choose to do with it is your karma. So this Rakshasa, whose name is Tarakasura, asks for this. Brahma is obliged to give him the boon. And the panic starts with Tarakasura. Tarakasura gets into his frenzy. He goes, takes over Swargalokam, Amravati. Amravati over there, not the one in southern India. And once he takes over Amravati, Indra comes to Brahma and says, look, what is happening? What do we do? And then Brahma says, what did you all do? When Shakti was here, when Shakti was present with Shiva, you all, in your hurry to play to the gallery and in your hurry not to offend Daksha, you all went running after Daksha's Yajnam and you displaced Shiva and Shakti. Go and ask Shakti alone, because you people are the wrongdoers. You have to atone for it. So Indra takes all the other devatas and they get together and say, the only way that we can solve Tarakasura's problem is to bring Shakti back and then unite Shakti and Shiva. So they choose one spot to go and do this. And it is so beautiful. If you read the Shiva Puranam, you will see each of the devatas is gone. Indra, Surya, Agni, Yama, Vayu, Varuna, all of them have gone to Himavat Parvatam. Why did they choose Himavat Parvatam? Because when you say Deva Bhumi Himachal, it is truly here that yogis, munis, rishis, gandharvas, siddhas, yakshas, kinnaras, kimpurushas, devatas, everybody chooses this spot for their tapas, because these mountains are fundamentally energized. That is why they deserve our respect. They do not deserve our pathetic tourist attitude where we go there and throw Bisleri bottles over there. Those are walking gods of walking lands of gods. So if you read several books about Himalayan masters, you will see how phenomenal experiences happen in the Himalayas till date. That is why we deserve and we owe it to those mountains. We owe basic respect to those mountains in terms of being clean when we go there, because devatas are doing tapas there. And devatas are not going to do tapas with a badge of identification saying, I am Indra. No, they do it in sukshma shariras, in subtle bodies. But our respect lies in just realizing that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening there. So like this, Indra and all the other devatas land up at Himavat Parvatam. And it's so beautiful how each of them chooses to worship Shakti differently. One person gets into japa, one person gets into homa, one person gets into tapas, one person gets into puja, one person gets into parayana, one person gets into dhyana, one person gets into sangeetam, one person gets into natyam. And this is also the beauty of worship, that ours is not a system in Sanatana Dharma where you say this is the only form of worshipping. Each one connects to divinity in their own way, and there is never saying that this is right or this is wrong. Each is right. Actually, there's no saying this is wrong. Everything is right and everything is beautiful. So each of the devatas are doing tapas. Where are they doing the tapas? In Himavat Parvatam. Amongst one of the many peaks, they're doing their tapas silently over there. Now, each within Sanatana Dharma, various forms of nature, or every form of nature has two components to it, Sthavara and Janghama. One is the static form. Sthavara is the mountain itself on where they are. Janghama is the force that is protecting that mountain, the force, the guardian deity of that. The guardian deity of that mountain is Himavan the king. When Himavan, this Raja, sees all of this that is happening, he sees that all the devatas have come here, they're doing some tapas. He goes and inquires saying, what are you doing? So all of them say that, we want to reunite Shiva and Shakti. And for that reason, we are here. So Himavan says, my goodness. And he goes running back to his wife, Maina Devi, and he says, for so long, we both have had a desire that we wanted to have Shakti as our child. Because all our tapas now, all our opportunity lies here. The devatas are anyway calling Shakti, so we should also do this. Rather than acting like a landlord who's saying, you people do what you do, let me know when it's done, Himavan also goes and joins their tapas over there. And after eons and eons of tapas, Shakti appears to them, to all the devatas present. Himavan is quietly doing his japam. He at this point doesn't even aware of what is happening. And all the devatas ask her, saying, come again. Why did you go? And she said, I went for 2 reasons. I went because firstly, I did not want to be associated with a father who believed that he owned me. No man owns me. I belong to Parameshwara and Parameshwara alone. Secondly, there is one man who is waiting, whose ask is so sincere that I will not deny him that ask. He's sitting there quietly. When you all are doing a tapas, he is also joining in that tapas. I will come as his daughter, and I will come very, very soon. So watch out as she appears, and as she disappears rather, as she goes Antardhanam. Shakti then appears to Himavan and Maina Devi much, much later. We're saying it fast, but this happens over a period of years. And to Himavan and Maina, who are overjoyed at seeing Jagannatha, they say, Amma, we have only one ask. Come as our daughter. And she says, indeed, I will come. And she sets a muhurtam for her arrival. That muhurtam is so beautiful. In Chaitra Masam, in Vasanta Ritu, in the month of spring, in Chaitra Masam, which is the first month in spring, on the 9th day, on Navami, in the Shuddha Navami, that is before Purnima, the Navami that comes, when the nakshatram Mrigashira is ruling, she says, I will come to you. Now you take the first 3 things, Chaitra, Shuddha, Navami. Who else is born on that same tithi? Ramachandra is born on that same tithi. If you look here itself, what did she say as Sati? She said, my masculine form is Vishnu. Here she is reinforcing it. Chaitra, Shuddha, Navami. Mrigashira is hers. Sometimes when it comes with Punarvasu, it's his. That's all the differences. The Tattvam is remaining the same. He is Shyama, Shyama Krishna as we know him. She is Shyamala. He lives in Mathura, or he was born in Mathura. She is in Madurai. That's all. You're having slight variations within the name, but the Tattvam is remaining the same. So she chooses this date for herself, but she also tells them something very beautiful. And this is something that I think is very important to understand in the context of Shakti. I've spoken about this on earlier occasions, and it fits itself a mention in other places. This is the idea that whenever Shakti comes, you will see in a lot of stories that Shakti is not directly born. Shakti always appears to a couple. At maximum, it is the pretense of a garbham. So even in this case, Maina Devi goes through labor, but Parvati is just born effortlessly. Kalidasa talks about this very, very beautifully, but we'll come to that in a minute. The idea that Shakti cannot be born is a very, very intrinsic aspect of Shakta Sampradayam, of Shakta philosophy, because Shakti is the one who is holding the universes within her. Vishwagarbha, Swarnagarbha. The entire Vishwam is in her garbham. So whose garbham can take her? That is why whenever she has to come, you look at Radha, you look at Padmavati, you look at Andal, you look at Sita, you look at Parvati, they are not born to human wombs. Even if they are quote unquote born, if they appear to be born, they will choose a woman who is not human. In the case of Himavan, as we know, as we just said, is the guardian deity of the entire mountain range of Himalaya Parvatas. His wife, Maina Devi, is one of the 3 Manasa Putris, meaning the Putri who is born of the mind of the Pitru Devatas. Within Sanatana Dharma, you have different systems of different departments of Devatas. So the Pitru Devatas are the Devatas that take care of our ancestors and ensure that when they leave the body, they ensure that they are safely either placed in another body, that Jiva is placed in another body, or if that Jiva has to attain Sadgati, they take care of that as well. So when we do Shraddhams, we are praying to this department of Devatas. These Pitru Devatas have 3 Manasa Putris. One of their Manasa Putris is Maina Devi, who becomes the mother to Parvati. Another of their Manasa Putris marries Vrishabhanu and becomes the mother to Radha. The third of their Manasa Putris marries Janaka Mahipati and becomes the mother to Sita. So in all these cases, it is Divyastris. It is not ordinary human women who can take Jagannatha in their garbham. Even that pretense of her being in that garbham, they cannot take. It is only women like this. So Maina Devi and Himavan are chosen for this phenomenal punya karma of becoming parents, of being known in the world as parents to this goddess. And the goddess does arrive for them. And when she arrives, Kalidasa describes this particular scene so beautifully. He says, Prasanna Dikpamshu, that on that particular day, this is taken from the Kumara Sambhavam. The Kumara Sambhavam is a beautiful piece of work that we will talk about, but then, as the name suggests, it means the arrival of Kumara. But actually, if you read this, it doesn't talk about the arrival of Kumara at all. It only talks about Shiva Shakti Kalyanam. And when Parvati is born in that Kalyanam, Kalidasa goes through a certain ecstasy of sorts. He says, Prasanna Dikpamshu Vivikta Vatam. that all the 8 directions are filled with such a pleasant breeze. Prasanna dikpangshu viviktavatam shankaswanantara pushpa vrishtihi. That everybody can hear conches and can feel as if there is a petal shower that is happening from above. Sharirinam sthavara jangamanam. All those that are fixed and all those that are moving are all able to feel a certain thrill, a certain joy inside their bodies, because sukhaya tat janma dinam babhuva. This is the joy of that janma dinam of Jagannatha. You can draw parallels to this in the Bhagavatam. At midnight on Shravana Bahula Ashtami, when Krishna is about to be born, all of a sudden the rain stops and suddenly there is a pleasant breeze everywhere. Devatas, Siddhas, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, everybody is wondering what is this beauty that is happening. Whenever Paramatma has to appear, the environment also becomes conducive to that, because Prakriti is happy. Prakriti is happy when Krishna is born. Prakriti is happy now when Mula Prakriti is born. So Mula Prakriti appears as a small infant to Himavan and Maina. They immediately take her to Aushadhi Prastham. Aushadhi Prastham is the capital city of Himavan's kingdom, and there she's growing. Now, this story, typically when Shiva Kalyanam is told, it is told in a fashion where Shiva is eternally emerging as the one who is unaffected by the whole story. But actually, he is the Kapatanataka Sutradhari. We all look at Gauri's movements and think that, it is she who is yearning to be with Shiva, but he is no less. Up till now, where was he doing his tapas? In eastern India and Kamakhya. The second he finds out that Gauri is born, he comes immediately and he arrives here into Himavat Parvatam, and he says, actually these mountains are very nice for tapas. Now I'll do my tapas over here. He cannot stay long without her, and his tapas for her is equally beautiful. Goswami Tulsidas says, Paraspara tapa punja phalayita swarupinau prapancha mata pitaro. That they are both doing tapas for each other, and they are both the fruit of each other's tapas. So she is doing tapas, she has gone through all this entire act of appearing now again as Himavat Parvata Putri, and she's about to be named. But meanwhile, he is also doing tapas, and how can he stay away from her? So we'll come to him and observe what happens when he comes to Himavat Parvata. On one hand, he has been separated from her externally. Internally, she is always here. But externally, he has been separated from her. So that intensity is with him. But secondly, the intensity that she is just literally round the corner and he's waiting to see her, this intensity manifests for him. This intensity manifests so much that when he is doing his tapas, from his Agnya Chakram, suddenly 3 drops of sweat fall. Anything that comes from Shiva or Vishnu is always consciousness. So that is also breathing with life. Those 3 drops of sweat fall onto the ground below him and immediately take the form of a baby. And that baby starts to cry. Now that tapas was so intense that the baby is red in color. So this red color baby is wailing, because as newborns do, that's exactly what it does. Now Bhudevi, who is holding the baby up till now in the form of land and ground, she does not want Shiva's tapas to be destroyed. She does not want it to be disturbed. So she immediately takes a form and she cuddles the baby and she nurses the baby. So the baby is appeased. When Shiva finishes his tapas and he opens his eyes, he sees Bhudevi in front of him with this little red color baby. And then he looks at her and she says, Swami, there's nothing that you don't know. This baby came when you were doing tapas. He said, I know. And this baby is now going to eventually going to attain the status of a planet. And further, when I marry Girija, when I marry the daughter of Himavat Parvat Putri, at that point, we will have a son in the future. My son will become the ruling deity for this planet. This planet is red in color, and this, as many of you have guessed, this is none other than Angaraka Graham or Mangala Graham or Kuja Graham. Now, if you look astrologically, that is why Shiva Kalyanam has this additional layer. In addition to philosophy, in addition to Tattva, in addition to Yoga and Sankhya, there is a layer of Jyotish over here. It is said that wherever Shiva Kalyanam is said, wherever Shiva Kalyanam is read or Shiva Kalyanam is heard, for those who are seeking to get married, that is the important underlying clause, those who are seeking to get married, marriage is close by. Everybody in the auditorium need not panic that we'll all end up with a partner additional after this. The objective is, because if you look in Jyotish Shastra, different planets govern different aspects of our existence. Kuja Graham, or Mars as he is, Mars, the position of Mars in the horoscope determines marriage, it determines financial debts, and it determines a host of other things. But Mars determining marriage, Shiva Kalyanam, Mars is coming in this story, number one. So when people are not able to get married for whatever reason, that means Mars needs to be appeased. But Mars also has a boss. So here also there is a hierarchy. If your boss, if you're not happy in a corporate system with your boss, you try and see if you can talk to your boss's boss. So Mars's boss is none other than Kumaraswamy. That is why Muruga or Subramanya Swami is worshipped on Tuesdays, particularly for those seeking to get married. Muruga's arrival is half the story and what we are leading towards. So Shiva Shakti Aikyam gives birth to Kumara. The one who Kumara is ruling is already born now. So he tells Bhudevi, Shiva tells Bhudevi, take care of this Graham, Angaraka, and at a later point, let him go and attain his planethood status, his Grahasthiti. Meanwhile, so this is happening here in one of the peaks of Himalaya Parvatam. But let's go back there. She was just born, and Tat Janma Dinam Babhuva, they are still celebrating her birth and the advent of her arrival. Now the question is, what do you name her? We already sneaked off her name. We unnecessarily released it too soon. But what is she named? We all know she's named Parvati because she is the daughter of Parvataraja Kumara. Every time there is a name given to a devata, there is always two meanings. One is the meaning that suits that context. Okay. The simplest example for this is Krishna is born to Vasudeva and Devaki. So he is the son of Vasudeva, so he is Vasudeva. But this is what is given in the Dashamaskandam of the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. Much before Krishna came as Vasudeva, Narada gives Dhruva the Vasudeva mantram. So that means Vasudeva is already there. Vasudeva now comes again in this form and it matches this context. So he says, oh yes, the son of Vasudeva, so Vasudeva. But Vasudeva Tattvam existed before. Parvati, one of the meanings of that name is the one who is born as the daughter of Parvata Rajaputri. But it has another very beautiful meaning. And to understand that, we'll take a little help from Ramayana and Mahabharata. In Ramayana, there are different sections of the book, right? What are they called? Ayodhya dash, Bala dash, Kandas. Mahabharata? Parva. In Mahabharata, it is called as Parva. Both mean the same things. Both mean distinction. Yuddha Kanda, Aranya Kanda. Over there it is Kanda. Over here it is Shanti Parva, Anushasana Parva. Parva represents two. Parva has various meanings, but amongst them, Parva means divisions. So how does that connect to our context over here? In the human body, beginning from the Mooladhara Chakra till the Sahasrara Chakra, the entire spinal cord is as if it is like a tube through where the Kundalini flows. The purpose of human life is to awaken that Kundalini, reach from the Mooladhara till the Sahasrara Chakra. In the course of that, there are three major blocks that the Kundalini encounters. Those blocks are three different regions. Those blocks, as many of you know, and you are reading the Lalita Sahasranamam every day, Mooladhara Ikanlaya, Brahma Granthi Vibhedini, Manipuranta Vishnu Granthi Vibhedini, Agnya Chakrantaralastha, Rudra Granthi Vibhedina. So these Granthas are, so Brahma Grantha is up till one point. From there till the next point is Vishnu Grantha. From there till the third point is known as Rudra Grantha. These are called Parvas. Those Parvas, or rather that entire tube that is holding it, is no different from the Kundalini that is going. So the Kundalini is surrounding and the Kundalini is going through. So Parvati means she who is flowing in this entire body and is about to unite with Shiva. That is why in this avataram it is so beautiful. I can hardly call it an avataram, so to speak. But in this Swarupam it is so beautiful that she is called Parvati because it is representing Kundalini Shakti that has come with a singular focus to attain Shiva. And if you look at the story from this point, from here up till now, Shiva's forms came. We saw Dakshinamurti, we saw Veerabhadra, we saw Tandavamurti. But now Shakti's forms come because Shakti is going closer to attain Shiva. And from the time she comes, she also grows because Himavan also had a desire that he wanted to raise her as a child. If you see certain avatars of Narayana or Parashakti, sometimes as soon as the avatara comes, they just come and immediately complete the purpose of the avatara. But there are some parents who want to see every stage of that child's life. And Himavan is one such father, Maina Devi is one such mother. So these parents also see their child growing gradually. And when Parvati is a 9-year-old girl, Bala, as she is known, or Bala Tripura Sundari, which is the 9-year-old goddess form of Parashakti, when this girl is roaming around in Himavat Parvata's kingdom, in Aushadhi Prastham, she's such a happy child. Bala is always associated with happiness. Whether you look at Bala Krishna or Bala Tripura Sundari or Bala Subramanya or Bala Ganapati. These are the predominant four forms of Bala Tattvam. Bala Tattvam means happiness. In Bala Tattvam, there is no sternness. No, there is always joy. So this Bala is also so happily roaming around. And one fine day, again comes the person who stitches all the pieces of our story together, our real Sutradhar, that is Narada Muni. Narada Muni has to communicate an important message to Himavat Parvatam. So he comes and lands up in Aushadhi Prastham. So he's given Madhuparkam, Arghyam, etc. Himavan is so thrilled that such a Mahan Purusha has come to visit him. And as much as Himavan is in awe of Narada's wisdom, like any parent, and this is something I'm sure many of you relate to, whenever you see anybody, when a parent sees anybody who is well known in a certain subject, the first association is, let me find out if something useful for my child can come out of this. So Himavan knows that, oh, Narada does Jyotish very well. Narada is able to read palmistry in the truest sense. So he says, oh, I can ask Narada to read my daughter's hand now. Himavan, he asked Parashakti to be born as his daughter, all of that, but Mahamaya is born. Nobody escapes Mahamaya. So Himavan also thinks she's my daughter. He's forgotten who she really is. So Bala is immediately called. And now Himavan calls Bala and asks Narada, saying, will you please read her hand? And this moment is so beautiful. It is told in 2 to 3 versions of the tale that Bala stretches her hand. Now Narada is in a difficulty because this is the hand that is holding the 3 worlds together. This is the Abhaya Hastam that is holding all of Bhulokam. Narada is looking at this hand. But right now if he bows in front of it, the story won't go ahead. So he just looks at it. In his mind, he does a namaskaram. From her eyes, she says, I accepted your namaskaram. Now continue your part, act your part. So Narada looks so beautiful in the Shiva Puranam. It is said that Narada looks at the hand and he starts to read out all the future of this girl. Again, human psychology. If you say 99 wonderful things and one thing which is slightly concerning, everybody has forgotten the 99 things. So Narada says, Sulakshanani Sarvani. There are so many Sulakshanas in this hand. Eka Rekha Visheshataha Vilakshanaha. That there is one line in this hand that is very distinct. It does not use the words Durlakshana. He says Vilakshana. That there is something distinct in this hand. Himavan has forgotten all the Sulakshanas. He said, tell me about that Vilakshana. What happened? Basic human tendencies. Puranas are not stories from far away. They're all about this only and what's happening in here. So Narada says, nothing. It's just a little distinct. In this girl's Bhagyam, it is written that she is going to marry somebody who does not have any parents. So Himavan panics. Contrary to modern day matchmaking, where this is an ideal condition that many people look for, in an elderly situation, one looked for a boy or looked for a partner who had parents because there is a familial system to protect that dampatyam. Because every dampatyam, every companionship goes through ups and downs. In such situations, when there is a strong family to hold them together, they can also soothe the anxiety of the newly married couple, also put them through the test of time and say, you guys will be okay. But now, Himavan is being told that this girl's husband has absolutely no parents. Maina Devi and Himavan are shocked. But Narada has to continue his part. So he says, one more thing, her husband will not stay put in one place for long. A bit of a gypsy, and he's particularly fond of roaming where? In smashanams. So Himavan's panic increases and he says, okay. And then Narada continues. Now Narada is in character. So he says, oh, one more thing I can see. She's going to give birth to an elephant head. So at this point, Himavan breaks down. He says, what is this? You said that she has Sulakshanas in her hand, in her Bhagyam, in her Jatakam, but what you are saying is exactly opposing that. It is at this point that you see Narada explains to Himavan Shiva Tattvam. He says, who? When I say he doesn't have parents, her husband, it means he is the father of the universe. He is Jagadeka Pitaha. Who is there for him? She's going to marry him. I called him Smashanavasi. There are so many beautiful words in Sanskritam, Smashanam and Samadhi. For us, both of these we associate with dead people. Smashanam and Samadhi both have yogic interpretations. I will come to those interpretations the way Parvati interpreted them, not in my language. But Shiva or Narada explains all of this to Himavan and he says she's going to give birth to a phenomenal form of the Lord, Gajamukham, much later. But what I'm trying to tell you, Himavan, is that she's going to marry Shiva, she's going to marry Parashiva. Unlike Daksha, Himavan has deep regard for Shiva. So he says, oh my goodness, my daughter is going to marry Shiva. Shiva is going to be my son-in-law. Where is the Shiva? And Narada says, that is why I have come here. No, to tell you that he's sitting here in one of your mountain peaks only. He's doing his tapas. He has also come for her. So you go, Himavan, and go and appease him. Go and request him for Gauri's hand. But don't go directly a cake. Don't go say, excuse me, if you don't mind, can I get my daughter married to you? Instagram DM Mari, you don't do it. Go and do it with some dignity. First you go and see, does he need anything for his tapas? After you go on a daily basis, start to help him because he is a yogi. A yogi is going to do certain karmas every day. So ask him, can I take some flowers for you? Can I bring some flowers for you? Do you need any homa samagri? Do all these things. And eventually, you see, when the moment is opportune, you can ask for your daughter's hand. So Himavan goes there and he asks Shiva for permission and Shiva agrees. So this starts. So Himavan establishes a relationship with Shiva, and he starts to go every morning. Himavan himself, he may be a king, but he himself goes, sweeps the area where Shiva does his own worship. When Shiva is about to do a homam, Himavan makes sure that there is everything that is ready for him, everything available for his worship. This goes on for some time. Then one fine day, Himavan thinks he's very sly. He takes this little girl along with him. That day, every day when Himavan comes, Shiva doesn't particularly notice. Himavan is doing his own thing. Shiva is a yogi. He's eternally lost in himself, in Samadhi Yogam. But one fine day, the day he brings her, how will Shiva not notice? This is the face that he has been waiting to see. But he also has an act part. He can't immediately say, "Bah, ban bitya nino." So he just looks and he says, "Who have you brought with you today?" So Himavan says, "She's my small daughter. She wanted to come and do tapas. She wanted to come and serve you when you are doing tapas." He said, "Absolutely not. Ask her to leave." So Shiva is also no less of an actor. So at this point, Himavan says, "Swami," and look at this is a devata. Himavan is still a king. You cannot say, "No, I will bring my daughter. I am the king." So he says, "Swami, she has such an innocent request. She wants to just serve you during your tapas. Can she not do that much for you?" So Shiva says, "Himavan, she is a girl. She is an embodiment of Prakriti, of Maya. And I am a yogi. I cannot be in the company or the vicinity of Maya, so ask her to leave." Himavan is absolutely stupefied. He cannot contest this. At this point, she, who is up till this point a silent spectator, she is Vakdevi. She is Shyamala Devi herself. So she says, "Appa, I'll talk to him. You move." Himavan steps back and she says, "Swami Namaskaram, I believe you do not want me to come here for your tapas because apparently I may disturb or I may distract your tapas, right?" And he says, "Yes." So she asks him, "You said that a woman is Prakriti." He says, "Yes." So she says, "What is Prakriti?" He said, "Prakriti is Maya." She said, "I asked you, what is Prakriti? Tell me what is Prakriti made up of." So he says, "Oh Sankhya Dharini," this is Sankhya philosophy that comes in here. He says, "Prakriti is made up of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, the 5 Panchatanmatras. It is made of the Pancha Mahabhutas. It is made of the Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, and it is made up of Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Chit. These are the 24 components of Prakriti." So she says, "Okay, these are the 24 components of Prakriti. So you said you are doing tapas, right, Swami?" He says, "Yes." "So you're doing tapas with what?" "I'm doing tapas with my Buddhi, Girija," he says. "Okay, you said you're doing tapas with your Buddhi. And Buddhi is a component of Prakriti. But now you are saying that you will take a component of Prakriti and do tapas, but at the same time you are scared of Prakriti being in your vicinity. Isn't this a little hypocritical?" So then he smiles and he says, "Don't think that I am doing tapas using the help of Prakriti. My tapas is beyond Prakriti." And she said, "Exactly what I'm saying. If your tapas is beyond Prakriti, why are you so scared if Prakriti is standing in front of you? I should be able to come." No. Now Shiva is in a predicament. Now where is there questioning anything? Because if he says anything, she will say, "You are scared, that you have no self-control, so you're the one that is in the problem." So Shiva immediately bows down. He says, "Okay." He looks at Himavan. He doesn't say anything to her. He says, "She can come from tomorrow." Himavan is overjoyed. Himavan could not contest. This is the Vak Swarupam or the Daivatvam of Parvati starts to come here. Parvati represents 2 things in this Kalyanam. Parvati is the embodiment of Shiva Bhakti Swarupini. How to attain Shiva, she teaches from day 1. But also how in her, she is the mother of the cosmos. All of the wisdom, but they're not getting married. Tarakasura is still like that. We are under trouble. Can we not fast forward this process? So Indra calls Kamadeva and says, "Go." Kamadeva immediately arrives on the scene with Rati Devi, who is his wife, and with Vasanta Ritu, who is his companion. So Kama looks for the opportune moment. This is the known part of the story, so I'm not spending too much time over here. Kamadeva looks for the opportune moment and strikes the Banam at Shiva. For a moment, when Parvati is cleaning around his tapas, where she's just removing some old flowers and putting some new ones in a basket, at that moment, Shiva thinks, such a desirable woman. Why is it that I am not with her? But Shiva traces his thoughts because he's eternally so mindful, and he pulls himself back saying, "What caused me to think like that?" And immediately he realizes, this is not how I normally think. And he looks around and he sees behind a bush, he sees somebody who just shot an arrow. In absolutely no time, his third eye, the Jnanagni, from which Agni comes out, burns down Kamadeva. At this point, Rati Devi screams. Rati Devi screams and comes out saying, "My husband has been burnt alive." Parvati is startled by all of this because she didn't know what is happening. Shiva gets up and he just walks off. Now everybody is absolutely stupefied by what happened. Because Parvati is the first one to lament. She says, "Up till now, at least I could see him every day. I could come here and do tapas for a few moments. Now because Kama has done something, he has gotten angry and he's gone. And I don't know where he has gone. There is no way of saying where he has gone, when he will come again. I have lost that bhagyam." Rati Devi says, "My husband came only because the devatas called him. So his was also not a wrong sankalpam, but he got burnt over here. Is this fair to me? And it is at this point, again, that the same Narada who pushed the story then appears before both of them, and they both ask him, what is happening? So Parvati's answer is what he answers very beautifully first. And he says, you must be wondering, Rati's question is what he answers first. Rati asks, saying, is it fair? And if you think about it, this is also the beautiful system of karma, right? Kama came just because he was asked to come. And now Kama got burnt. Kama came for a Deva Karyam to unite Shiva and Shakti. But Kama was burnt. How is this even fair to Kama? Narada tells Rati a very beautiful story, saying that Kama is only got what he deserved because many eons ago, during Srishti Arambham, when Srishti was being created, at that point of time, Brahmadeva created a Manasa Srishti. He created beings from his mind. At that point, he said, if the universe has to populate itself and there has to be a spread of life, there has to be Kama, there has to be desire. So let me create a Devata for all of this desire manifest. So as he manifests Kama from his being, Kama is created and Kama looks at Brahmadeva and he says, okay, I'm ready. What do you want me to do? He says, I want you to create desire in the world. He says, for that I need some ayudhas. No? Give me some weapons with which I can go and pierce the subtle shafts of the hearts. So Brahma gives him immediately a bow, a sugarcane bow, as you all know, and says, here is your ayudham. And he gives him 5 flower arrows. So Kama picks up the bow and he says, Nijama, this works, huh? So Brahmadeva says, yes, it does. He says, Nijama? He says, yeah. He says, okay, wait, let me try. He immediately takes one of the flower arrows and he shoots it at Brahma. Now Brahma, who was free of desire up to this point, Brahma doesn't even realize what Kama is doing. Kama is having his own party, just checking. This is how we all are with new toys. We just try it out a little bit here, there. So very effortlessly, very unintentionally, Kama shot this arrow back at Brahma. Brahma, meanwhile, is doing tapas. And from Brahma came Sandhya Devi, because Brahma is creating Srishti. So he has created the sun. He has created the concept of day and night, and he's creating the bridge between these two, which is called as Sandhya. So when he's creating Sandhya, he creates a goddess who will watch over these periods. She is Sandhya Devi. She has come from Brahma, so she's like a daughter to Brahma. But she has just come out of Brahma, out of his Manasa Srishti, and Kama's arrow has pierced him. So now Brahma also looks at Sandhya and he says, such a beautiful woman, I desire her, I want to be with her. And Sandhya senses this and she says, I'm like your daughter, how can you possibly do this? Brahma is infatuated because Kama's arrows are not easy to escape. So Brahma gets up and he starts to run behind Sandhya Devi. Sandhya Devi is so embarrassed and she takes various forms of various animals. So whichever female animal she becomes, he becomes the male counterpart to that animal. And he keeps running and running and running. And at some point, Sandhya screams saying, Parashiva, please come to my rescue. And at this point, Rudra appears. And he looks at the entire scene that's happening. Brahma is Srishtikarta. He is the one who has created Srishti. The one who has created Srishti has created all the devatas. Now all the devatas are like his children and they're all watching their father infatuated, running behind a woman, so aroused and so moved by passion that it's an embarrassing sight. So Rudra appears before Brahma, and at this point Brahma has 5 heads, not 4 heads. One is on top. Rudra realizes the only way to bring Brahma back to his senses is to pull the 5th head out. So Rudra takes out the 5th head of Brahma, and then Brahma is brought back to his senses, and Brahma looks. He sees all the eyes that are watching him, and he thinks to himself, my goodness, all of these people are ridiculing me right now, all because of what Kama did to me. So he turned to Kama and he says, the same person, I'm cursing you, Kama, the same person who pulled out my head today will bring you down to ashes one day, because that is the only fair treatment for what you have done to me. So Kama, in some senses, got his own karmic cycle completed. As soon as Narada relates the story, Parvati says to Rati, I understand your pain because you are separated from your lover and so am I. So I promise you something, that when he and I come back together, I will bring back Kama to life. Don't worry about it. You go and do your tapas in the meanwhile. So Rati goes to do her tapas and Parvati is left distraught. Rati has been given assurance that, okay, this is his karmic cycle. She looks at Narada and she says, what about me? Everyone here was doing whatever they had to do. They have some role to play. They have some karmic connection. Everybody is eventually going to find their ultimate karma phalam. What about me? The only phalam that I wanted was Parashiva. Now there is no sign of Parashiva. What am I going to do? So Narada says, you thought you will earn him through seva and through tapas, or you thought you will earn him through kainkaryam, just through being in his vicinity, doing whatever you can. You can earn Shiva alone by submitting your heart, manasa, vacha and karmana to him. You have to do that. You have to go through tapas now. And she says, I'll do tapas. I'm ready to do tapas, but tell me how to do it. So Narada becomes the guru for Gauri and instructs her on how to do the tapas. And when he does that, he tells her that I'm going to give you a mantram. I'm going to give you these 5 phenomenal syllables. This mantram of Shiva is so sacred that it is kept like a jewel inside a box, which is kept inside a locker, which is kept inside a Godrej, which is kept inside a safe, which is kept inside a house. I'm going to give you that mantram. That mantram, if you look, our Sanatana Dharma relies on the 3 Vedas, Rig, Yajus and Sama, predominantly. Atharva Veda is an Antarbhagam. In these 3 Vedas, the central one is the Yajurveda, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Sama Veda. In the center of that Yajurveda lies something called the Shatarudriyam. The Shatarudriyam, as we spoke about earlier, is made up of 11 Anuvakas of Namakam and 11 Anuvakas of Chamakam. The Mrityunjay, Mahamrityunjay mantram that we are all familiar with comes at the end of the Namakam here, of this portion. So Narada says, in the entire knowledge system of the universe is the Vedas. In that Vedas, in the heart of that Vedas is the Yajurveda. In the heart of that Yajurveda is the Shatarudriyam. In the heart of that Shatarudriyam is the Namakam, 11 chapters of Namaskaram to Shiva. In the heart of that 11 Namaskarams to Shiva is the 8th chapter. In the heart of that 8th chapter lies this gem of a Shiva mantram. This Shiva mantram comes as Namah Shankaraya cha Mayaskaraya cha Namah Shivaya cha. Namah Shivaya cha. Those are your Pancha Aksharis. That is the Pancha Akshari mantram. Namah Shivaya. Narada gives Parvati the Upadesham of that. That is where the Namah Shivaya finds its origin in the Vedam. That is why it has become the Shiva mantram that it has. Narada says this is the most sacred. That is why Vedamata has also kept this mantram very, very carefully. Take this mantram and you will attain Shiva through this mantram. So Parvati has now decided to go do tapas. Now you see various stages of the Kundalini Jagrana. Up till now, she was with food and drink, with all of these things in place, she was going towards him. Now, the focus is more directed, so she's getting into tapas and she slowly starts to leave other things. But all of that is tattvam. She has to still come back and take permission from parents. No, they have to give no objection certificate. No. So first she goes to her father and she says, I'm ready to go and do tapas. So he says, you are a princess. How will you possibly do tapas? Do your tapas here in Aushadhi Prastham. Whatever you want, we will arrange for you. And this is his parental cushioning that is coming in naturally for her. He says, we won't disturb you. We're not going to get in your way. But she knows that the only way she can attain him is with ekagra chittam, with single pointed focus. She cannot have anybody around for that. So she says, no, I'm going to go. So they have a long argument and Himavan tells her, he begs her, he talks to her, he pleads with her and she says, Appa, why do you think I will listen to you? Like you, I'm also a mountain, I'm also Mahastubborn, I won't move. I'll decided to do tapas, I'll do tapas. So he says, okay, go and tell your mother and go. And when she goes to her mother, she tells her that this happened, Shiva walked away and he burned down Kama. I have decided I will marry Shiva and the only way that is going to happen is through tapas. At this point, her mother asks her, she's so moved, Maina Devi is so moved, and at the same time so much of grief has overcome her that she has to leave, that her daughter is going to leave the kingdom to go and do tapas. She doesn't know how it's going to be in the wild forests of the Himalayas. So she holds her hand, she pulls Uma back, she pulls Gauri back to her, and she holds her hand. Only 2 syllables come out of her mouth, O and Ma, which mean don't go, please don't go. And because she's choked with emotion, Parvati hears that when her hand is being held, she turns around and she says, that is my name in the Vedas, Uma, that is my name. These are the Swarupams of Shakti that are coming out. First came Bala Tripura Sundari, now comes Uma. And Uma is one of the most phenomenal names of the goddess. Because if you look at the name Uma, again, she's given this name in this context because her mother said, don't go, Uma, so that becomes Uma. But if you look at it, Uma is made of 3 aksharas, U, Ma and A. Which other sound or which other name is made up of 3 aksharas? Same 3 aksharas in another order. A, U, Ma, Om, U, Ma, A, Uma. So Uma is the feminine aspect or the feminine form of Omkaram. Omkaram is masculine, Uma is feminine. So Uma is one of the most phenomenal names. There is an Uma Sahasram and 1,000 verses that are written on her by Kavya Kantha Ganapati Mahamuni. He is the Muni who made Arunachala who made Arunachala Ramana Maharshi famous or known to all of us. He has seen Uma in his own journey, in his own spiritual journey. So much can be said about Uma Namam, but this Namam is one of the most powerful aspects because this suggests that Omkaram, the Omkara sadhana inside her is growing. So she takes her mother's leave and she goes. But she does not go alone. She takes 2 people with her, 2 companions to her. One is Jaya and one is Vijaya. Look at the context. She is going because she wants to attain Shiva. When she wants to attain Shiva, she is going because she will not be defeated. Up till now, the situation defeated her. Somewhere, she was not able to attain Shiva. Now she is going with single-handed focus. And when you go with single-handed focus, you aim for Jayam and Vijayam. So she is taking Jaya and Vijaya, her two female companions. Here it is female companions. In Vaikuntham, they are there as male companions. Jaya and Vijaya as Dwarapalaka. Same tattvam that is coming out. So she goes, and this Swarupam of Parvati, who is living with Jaya and Vijaya, as many of you know, is called Jaya Vijaya Sameta Aparajita Devyai. This is the mantram also for her. Shri Jaya Vijaya Sameta Aparajita Devyai Namaha. Those who say this namam wherever they go for a specific task, when they leave home, they will always be successful. There is a similar version of this namam that is given in Lakshmi Sahasranamam as well. So this Swarupam is Aparajita Devi. There is no defeating Aparajita Devi. She is going to win. And Aparajita Devi goes into Himalaya Parvatas, into the deep woods of these mountains, selects a secluded spot for her tapas, and she begins her tapas. Her tapas is so intense that during summer, she does the Panchagni tapas. Panchagni tapas is she lights 4 fires around her in very close proximity, and she stands under the midday sun. In the peak of summer, she does this. In winter, she goes and covers her body in a frozen lake neck deep. And in all of this, there is only one thing on her lips, Namah Shivaya, because that is the mantram. She has forgotten all sense of hot, cold, Shitoshna Sukhadukosmi, what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. She is a living epitome and a breathing epitome representing that. For her, it is Shiva and Shiva alone. But one would think when it is such an intense tapas that her face will be like this. There are some people, when they close their eyes also, you wonder, oh my goodness, what is happening? But tapas is supposed to be effortless. It is supposed to be something that brings you joy. Because she's thinking of Shiva and he brings her joy. That is why one bhakta says so beautifully, he says, Nija Bhadra Mukham Boja Chintanaye Namo Namaha is what the Lalita Ashtotram says. That the way her face is pleasant because she's thinking of her husband. But there is another beautiful bhakta who says that Nijamoda Sada Ramaniya Shivamrita Nama Japam. That the only thing that is bringing her true happiness, Nijamoda Sada Ramaniya Shivamrita Nama Japam. She's just repeating that name of Shiva and it is bringing her so much bliss. That Swarupam of Devi, if you see this Swarupam, she sits sometimes and does tapas, but one Swarupam of hers is predominant in this. That is when she's standing with one leg firmly on the floor. The other leg is lifted and is placed on the standing leg's thigh. And as she does that, she takes the Japamala and puts it over here near her heart. And the Panchakshari Japam is happening over here. And on the other Swarupam, she takes the other Japamala. In one version, the Japamala is here on top of her head. In the other version, the Japamala is by her heart. But in all of this, both her hands are raised and she's looking up towards him. This Swarupam of Devi is called as Tapat Kamakshi. If you go to the temple of Mangad near Chennai, you will see this particular kshetram. This is where Shankaracharya also established an Ardhameru. It is a Mahakshetram, but this is the Swarupam of Gauri that is waiting to be one with Shiva. So as her tapas is intensifying on one hand, we'll keep her aside. What about him? He is also waiting, but at the same time, he has a Leela that he's about to play. So Shiva sees that her tapas is intensifying and he calls the Saptarishis. Now look at this beautiful aspect that each component of required in a wedding is all appearing over here. First came Angaraka Graham. Kuja Graham was responsible for a wedding. Then came Sandhya Devi. Sandhya Devi also has a very important part to play in a wedding, but not in that form, not with that name of Sandhya Devi. That form, to complete that story, which is linked to this one, is that Brahma is infatuated by Sandhya and Shiva cuts off his head, so Brahma is appeased. But Sandhya tells Shiva, I don't want this body because somebody who I looked at as a father was looking at me with lust. So I don't want this. Let me come back as another body. And she leaves her body. She comes back as one of the most phenomenal women that we have in Sanatana Dharma. She comes back as Arundhati Devi. Arundhati Devi, you are all well familiar with her role in the wedding, because whether it is midday or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, every couple is posing there looking towards the sky. The actual one who is blessing them from the sky, from the Gagana Mandalam, is Vasishtha's wife, Arundhati. Arundhati has a very critical role to play. She will come in just a minute or two. So all of the various forces that are required for a wedding are having their part to play. So Shiva calls the Saptarishis. He doesn't call Arundhati for this particular purpose, but he calls the Saptarishis, and the Saptarishis are delighted. So they appear in Kailasa and say, what is it, Swami? The one whose name is on our lips always, you have called us. You are putting our name on your lips. What is it that we can do for you? He said, Parvati is doing tapas for me over there. Are you aware? He says, of course we are aware. So he says, I have a small request for you. I want you to go and visit Parvati. So they say very gladly, because whenever a bhakta is yearning to be with Paramatma, you will see that that bhakta becomes a magnet and ends up drawing other bhaktas. You don't have to look in Puranas, you see contemporary bhaktas as well, that wherever there is one person, there are people automatically drawn to that. Where there is a Tyagaraja Swami, where there is a Mirabai, where there is an Andal, automatically people feel that pull towards him. So similarly, people feel, now the Saptarishis feel, Abba, Gauri is doing tapas and we can go near Gauri, is it? And as soon as they think this, Shiva says, wait, there is a small terms and conditions. I don't want you to go like this as your Rishi Akara. I want you to change your avataram a little bit. You can go as elderly gentlemen, but go there and go and do Shivaninda. Go and protest and go and say terrible things about Shiva. So the Saptarishi say, what? He says, that is my request. That is my adesham. That is what I'm commanding you to do. So that is what you have to do. So they're all absolutely terrified. They don't want to even think of Shivaninda because they're such Shiva Bhaktas, but he has commanded them. So they go. And when they go there, Parvati has recognized that the Saptarishis have come, and she's so thrilled to see them. And as soon as she sees them, she serves them, gives them water, arghyam, etc. And when she does that, she says, what can I do for you? So then they say, you are doing tapas. It looks like you're doing tapas very seriously. Who are you doing a tapas for? So they said, then she says, my tapas is for Shiva. And he says, Shiva, the same one who is a Smashanavasi, the same one who has snakes as his ornaments, the same one who takes the ash from dead bodies and puts it on himself. You're doing tapas for him. Why? There are so many beautiful devatas that you can marry. Why do you want to marry him? She gets a little irritated, but a part of tapas is also controlling what you say. Tapas does not mean that 9 to 9:45 you do your japam, 9:46 you start yelling at people. So she controls herself and she says, I understand Shiva Tattvam and I know that it is Shiva alone that I will marry. So they continue because he has said you have to keep saying things. If he had said do it one time and go, they would have said it and run away. But they didn't want to do that. They had to continue. And when they continue like that, it starts to bite Parvati. It really hurts her. First of all, her tapas is growing. She's waiting for something to happen. Then somebody comes and says, why are you doing tapas like this? So she bursts and she says, how did anybody make you the Saptarishis? You people don't have an ounce of jnanam. You want to know Shiva Tattvam? I'll tell you who Shiva really is. You're talking about the snakes on his body. Every yogic activation, every yoga siddhi is a snake that he holds. So he blesses all his devotees with all the yoga siddhis, so he's Pannagabhushana. You are talking about the Chitta Bhasmam that he wears, the Bhasmam that he picks up from dead bodies, because it is him that is responsible for all of Layam, and he takes all the karma bijas of all living beings and he puts it as an abharanam. Later when they have to take form again, he will remember it and he will bring their creation into existence. She talks about smashanam over here. Smashanam and samadhi. Smashana represents that space where everything dissolves into, and she says everything dissolves into Shiva, so he is called as Smashanavasi. If you go to Kashi, if you go to Kashi Kshetram, when they are reading the Sankalpam, they will not necessarily say Kashi Kshetram. They will say Mahasmashane, that this particular place is called a Mahasmashan. It does not mean it's a big crematorium. What it means is this is where the universe will dissolve at Pralaya Kalam. So she talks about how all of this, she gives Shiva Tattvam to them, and on one hand they are so happy because when you hear Shiva Tattvam from Shakti, there's nothing more phenomenal than that. But on the other hand, they have to continue their appearance. Then she typifies them a little bit more, so they're very unhappy, so they go away now. And they go and tell Shiva, please, we're very happy to have done this, but never ask us to do this again. We don't want to do Shivaninda. You ask us to go and bless her and you and see you and take your blessings, we'll do that, but never Shivaninda again. So they go off. Now her tapas has intensified again. The next Swarupam of Gauri comes. If you look at her names that she takes during tapas, one after the other, she slowly starts to let go of things. When she lets go of water, it is one stage in her tapas. When she lets go of fruits and even roots and shoots and whatever she eats, that is another stage. But finally, one fine day, she wakes up and she says, today onwards, I will not even eat a single leaf until I attain Shiva. Then she earns a very beautiful name, Aparna, as we know it. Parna refers to leaf. Aparna is she who does not even have a leaf. But that is the contextual meaning. Aparna is a name. They did not call her Ajala when she left water. They did not call her Aphala when she left fruits. But they called her Aparna when she left leaves. Why is this name special? Because Aparna Devi is the Swarupam of Devi that takes devotees out of any kind of financial debt. If people are struggling with financial debts of any kind, Apagata Runa Aparna. It is Aparna Devi Namam and Aparna Devi Japam during Tuesdays that is recommended to help them overcome financial hurdles. Not just financial hurdles, any kind of finally or being stuck in a debt and not being able to cross over, it is Aparna Devi who helps go beyond that. So she earns that name Aparna Devi. She doesn't know this. For her tapas is going on. And when her tapas is going on, at some hand she's also wondering, so much tapas has happened, but no sign of him. I don't know if at all is he listening, is he even catching, is any of this mattering to him at all? And it is at this point that she thinks, maybe he won't come. This is also something that is not just peculiar to Parvati. This is something that happens in our own spiritual journeys. That sometimes it can feel like I'm doing so much, but there's just no sign of him, no sign of that Lakshyam. At this point he hears, he's always listening. And when he does listen, this time he realizes, I sent Saptarishis, they didn't do the good enough job that I wanted, this time I'll only go. So he comes at the very end of her tapas. Literally, she doesn't know that it's about to be the end of her tapas. And when he comes at this point, he comes as a Vriddha Brahmana. He changes his Vesham into that of an old, elderly Brahmana, and he comes. So he comes as a frail Brahmana. She's in her kutiram, in her small little cottage that she has constructed for herself. She sees that a Vriddha Brahmana has come. So she comes running out to greet him. And he says, can you give me a little something to eat and drink? And she says, of course. She seats him down, gives him a little bit of kanji that she has. And then she says, what seva can I do for you? And he says, I look at you, you're glowing with tapas, but you look so unhappy. Why are you so unhappy? She says, of course I'm unhappy. I don't know how you sensed it, but I've been doing tapas for so long and there's no sign of my loved one coming. So that sadness is hitting me. And he says, oh, you're doing tapas for some devata? She says, yes. He says, who are you doing tapas for? She says, for Shiva. He says, for Shiva? You want to do tapas for Shiva? Now she bites her lip because she says, with difficulty I got over what the Saptarishis said. Because for someone who is in any state of bhakti, or we don't even have to think as far as bhakti towards devata. If someone is dear to us, if someone who we love very much is spoken ill about, it hits us. We don't forget the person who it's about, it hits us. So for her, when she heard those things, it may be a leela that Shiva did, but it hurt her when the Saptarishi said that. Now when this man has again done the same thing and says, oh Shiva, why Shiva? And he starts. And when he starts, everything that the Saptarishis he said, but he says with more intensity. This time she realizes, I don't want to get into this. I'm just not going to have this argument. But at the same time, she also wonders, where is Shiva? Why is he not coming and why does this keep happening to me? At this point, she just ignores this man. She tries to talk to him for a while. She explains Shiva Tattvam to him, but he is going on and on because he's a phenomenal actor. So at this point, she looks at Jaya and Vijaya who are there and she says, light a fire for me. I'm going to come and I'm going to jump into that fire. So he says, why are you doing that? He hears this and he says, why are you doing that? She says, because I don't want to hear Shivaninda. So he says, my intention is not to do any ninda, but you have chosen a husband. I don't think he's very worth your time. You're like a Divyastri, you're a goddess. You should be marrying someone of your stature. The Shivaninda continues from him and he goes on saying he's a Smashanavasi. He's somebody who doesn't have one place that he sticks in. He moves around with Bhuta, Preta, Pishacha, Ganas. He rides a bull. Look at all the other devatas. The Shivananda continues, and when Shivaninda happens, Parvati knows one rule in Shastram that says, whenever Shivaninda goes on or when Ishtadevata Dvesha happens, when your beloved deity is spoken ill about, the only prayishchitam for that dosham, the only atonement for that dosham is to have a Sachela Snanam. Sachela Snanam means bathing with your clothes on. That is typically only done when somebody leaves the body. So she says enough of this nonsense and she goes inside her kutiram so that she can go and pour water on herself so that she doesn't have the dosham of listening to Shivaninda. Parvati places 1 foot inside the cottage, 1 foot is still outside. Tears are just flowing down her face because not only is she unhappy hearing Shivaninda, she also feels he's let me down, he's not here, I don't see any sign of him. And at that point when she's about to enter the kutiram, one hand pulls her back. She's angry because she knows that is the hand of the Vriddha Brahmana. She didn't expect that he will touch her. Now she thinks this Vriddha Brahmana not only did Shivaninda, he has the audacity to touch me and to hold my hand. Who does he think she is? And she turns angrily towards him outside the cottage. And instead of the Vriddha Brahmana with Shashanka Bhushana, with Pannaka Bhushana standing with his Trishulam and the other hand firmly holding her hand, he says, Gauri, I'm your dasa. You have earned me with your tapas, Gauri. Ask for what you want. She can't believe her eyes. And she looks for a minute and she says, is it really you or is this also Maya? And he says, of course it's me, Gauri. I cannot stay away from you when you're doing tapas like this. I've come in this moment to take you back with me to Kailasa. So he pulls her a little more and she says, Samadhana. Even I have been doing tapas for you, but what do you mean you're going to take me? And then he says, we are eternal. Shiva and Shakti, Shivasya Sahaja Dhruva. I am eternally yours. There's no question of me being separate from you. So now I'm just taking you back to our home. And she says, very nice. There is a certain sampradayam. That is all tattvam. Don't talk about tattvam to me now. I have come in this swarupam as the daughter of somebody, of Himavan and Maina. So sampradayam dictates that you must come and ask me for their hand in marriage. So ask them for my hand in marriage. And Shiva says, what? I don't need to do any such thing. She says, we have to have a wedding. And he says, we don't need any wedding. She says, this reason only. Last time when I came as Sati, my father was not happy with the wedding. He was not happy that I was coming with you. And whatever pujas and shantis had to be done, even the Navagraha pujas he didn't do with any interest. So all of those Graha dosham separated us. This time I don't want anything like that. I want you to come and I want you to ask properly. So Shiva decides that he is going to come. He's very unhappy with this ask. But she has said, look, my tapas is now complete. I will go back with Jaya and Vijay. I'll go back to my father's house and tell them that my tapas is successful. You come and you ask. That's it. She gave him one task to do, one simple task to do. He goes back to Kailasa and he says, I've never asked anybody for anything. I really don't know how to do this. There's a beautiful song from the movie Kedarnath as well, right? That says, Manga kuch kabhi nahi, tune hai sirf diya. You have only given. You don't know how to ask. So truly he does not know how to ask. So instead of directly going to Aushadhi Prastham and telling Himavan and Maina that I want to marry your daughter, he thinks about what's happening. So we shift our focus to Aushadhi Prastham now. Parvati has returned and Himavan has received news that Shiva has appeared and he said he will marry my daughter. So a huge celebration is arranged in Aushadhi Prastham. When this celebration is underway, Shiva says, maybe during this celebration I will go and ask for her hand. Can come directly, no, but he doesn't know Papa. He's such a Bhola Shankar. So he comes straight to this, not in his regular Vesham, but he comes as a street dancer. And when he comes as a street dancer in this moment, he comes to the palace. And in the palace, there is a U-like courtyard, and he stands in the center of that courtyard, and he begins his dance. Now, this is Nataraja dancing. Nataraja's dance is the most captivating. Dhimita, dhimita, dhimi, dhimikita takatom, tom, tom, tarikita, tarikita takatom, matanga munivara vandita vesha, sarva digambara vandita isha, nitya niranjana, nitya visesha, isha, sabhesha, sarvesha. Swami Dayananda Saraswati said in Bho Shambho that dance is so captivating that nobody can take their eyes off him. And he starts, but it's a street dancer. Nobody knows that it's Shiva. So this street dance is happening. And what is his uddesham? His focus is that Maina and Himavan must see it. Himavan is inside doing puja. We'll come to him in a minute. Maina Devi sees this from the first floor. That is the Antapuram where the women are watching. And she sees the street dancer and who will not be moved by his dance. So she immediately calls one of the guards and she says, please inquire, who is he? So the guards immediately say, he's a street dancer. So she says, look, his dance has brought me so much happiness. Tell him, go and send all these jewels for him. So she sends trays full of precious jewels for Shiva. So, or for the street dancer. And they come down to the street dancer and they give it to him and he says, no, I don't want it. So Maina Devi is seeing this. She's a little surprised. Nobody says no to the queen's gifts like that. But she says, okay, what do you want? She sends another word saying, if you don't want those, no problem. What is it that you want? So he tells the guards, oh, you're asking me what I want? What I want is her daughter's hand in marriage. The news goes back and she says, dance chanagidinanta. I agreed to give him some jewels and some things like this. Even though he has the cheek and the audacity to ask for my daughter's hand in marriage, is it? She tells the guards, go down and talk to him and tell him, send him out. There's no way he can do this. So the guards are fighting with the street dancer and there is commotion. Himavan inside is doing puja. Himavan is a Parvata Kulam, meaning he belongs to a Parvata Kulam, a family of mountains. For all mountains, Vishnu is the ruling deity. So Vishnu is the Kuladevam for this lineage of Himavat Parvata. So Himavan is inside doing Vishnu Puja. And in his Vishnu Puja, he's doing a specific bhagam of Vishnu Puja where he's doing Athanga Puja. Athanga Puja means you worship every part of that god's body. So you'll say Padau Pujayami, Jannau Pujayami, Hastan Pujayami, Bahum Pujayami, Netram Pujayami, etc. So each time he's putting one particular Tulsi Dalam on that part. So on Vishnu's feet, in the Vigraham of Vishnu in his puja room, Himavan is putting one Tulsi Dalam. Then on his stomach he puts one. Then he puts one near his eyes. Then he hears all this commotion and he comes out. So he asks somebody what is happening. So they tell him that, Maina Devi asked this guy what he wants and he said he wants your daughter's hand. So Himavan says, who is the street dancer who thinks he's going to marry my daughter? He pushes the guards and he comes to talk to the street dancer. As soon as the street dancer notices Himavan is coming, suddenly there is no street dancer. Instead of that, there is a beam of light. Himavan is the only one who can see this beam of light. Just like Arjuna was the only one who got Gita-padesha, everyone else was stuck in Maya. It is through his grace alone that Himavan is seeing something. And the first thing that Himavan sees is that beam of light takes a form. Suddenly from that beam of light, a swan emerges. On that swan, somebody is seated. That somebody has 4 heads and with 4 heads is reading the 4 Vedas. In his 4 hands that the 4 heads have, he is holding a Kamandalu and holding Abhayavarada Hastam and holding a Japamala and holding the Vedas. And by his side is the goddess of all speech, Saraswati. That is Brahmadeva, who makes his appearance to Himavan in the beam of light. Himavan bows down to do a namaskaram, but suddenly the form is gone. And then the beam of light comes back. But this time, he sees a different swarupam. Udyadaditya sankasham pitavasam chaturbhujam shankachakradharam devam dhyayet lakshmipatim harim. He sees with Garuda Rudha, on Garuda, seated with Lakshmi Narayana. But he sees something peculiar. All the Tulsi Dalams he put inside his Puja Mandiram, wherever he put them on Vishnu, he sees Vishnu here in front of him having those exact Tulsi Dalams in those same spots. So he realizes, oh my goodness, the one I was worshipping inside has come over here. Suddenly this Swarupam goes, and then he sees that there are 7 horses, and in those 7 horses, holding them, there's a charioteer. Behind the charioteer, on a chariot, holding a white lotus, Saptashwarathamarodam Prachandam Kashyapatmajam Shwetapadmadharam Devam Tam Suryam Pranamamyaham. That Surya gives darshanam to Himavan. Himavan bends down and does a namaskaram, and as he does a namaskaram, this Swarupam is also gone. And it is at this point he sees, when he opens his eyes for the 4th time, that on a Vrishabham, on a bull, he sees Shiva, and he sees the most astonishing thing. He sees his daughter, Himavan sees his daughter next to Shiva. So, Vrishabharodham with Vrishabham and with Gauri Sahayam, he sees, and he's absolutely confused. He looks there and he looks behind into the palace saying, isn't she inside? What is it that is happening? Before Himavan can make any sense of what is happening, the beam of light is gone, that Swarupam is gone, and everything is disappeared. And Himavan wonders to himself, what just happened? And then it dawns on Himavan, the one who came is not an ordinary street dancer. He is not one amongst any deity. He is Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Suryatmaka, Parabrahma, came to my door, came to my house to ask for my daughter's hand, and I sent him away. Good God, what did I do? Now again, all of Himavan's sadness and all of Parvati's irritation. She said, that much tapas I did. One job I gave him, just come directly and ask for my hand. Aduno sariyag madlilla. So then at this point, she thinks that I don't know what he has in mind, what Leela he wants to teach who at which point of time. Shiva is gone. He's gone back to Kailasa. He goes to Kailasa, he closes his eyes, and he thinks of the Saptarishis. This time again the Saptarishis come thinking, oh God, what do you want now? And he says, this time also I want you to do one favor. They said, yeah, what's the favor? So he says, I want you to go, and I want you this time to go with Arundhati and go as the elders of Shiva Kulam, as the elders on my side, and go ask for Gauri's hand in marriage. This time they're absolutely thrilled because this is something they will happily do. So in Aushadhi Prastham, when Himavan and the others are feeling sad, Himavan suddenly sees now that from the skies there are 8 beams of light. 7 plus 1, because Arundhati is essential to this, and he sees these 7 beams of light coming down because the Saptarishi Mandalam is present in the skies. Many of you know that this is also a constellation over there, and Arundhati has a predominant position in that constellation. So that is the idea of Rishi's tapas as well, that they leave their tapas over there in the skies watching over all creation, and they take physical forms whenever required. So they come down and they sit down, and as they step down, Himavan calls Maina Devi and he says, the Saptarishis are coming down from the skies, they're coming towards Aushadhi Prastham. We are so fortunate. Indeed, they do come towards Aushadhi Prastham. They bring gifts for Himavan and Maina and say, we have come on behalf of the groom to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. Himavan and Maina are beyond thrilled with this offer, and they're so overjoyed that they go. They also ask Parvati for consent. It was clearly a thing then as well. And Maina comes to her and she says, can you hear what's happening outside? And Parvati says, of course I can. I'm listening to every word of it. She says, of course you have my consent, Amma. Please agree. Ask them when is the Muhurtam. So this is now when we have various versions of when the Muhurtam of Shiva Parvati Kalyanam happened. Also various locations. In Uttarakhand, on the way to Kedarnath, there is one place, I think Trilingeshwar, which is believed to be the place where the wedding happens. The Muhurtam itself, as per one version, the Muhurtam happens on a Shravana Somvaram. Another version says that Mahashivaratri is the night that is determined for the Muhurtam. Another version that says Margashira Somvaram in the month of Margashirsha is chosen as the Muhurtam for the Kalyanam. Whichever it is, there are multiple Kalyanams, so you can attend all of them. So the Muhurtam is fixed. Aushadhi Prastham, the capital city, is now going to be the Mantapam, is going to be the Kalyana Mantapam for this. And now the scene shifts to Kailasa, where the groom has to be readied. When the groom has to be readied, Vishnu and Brahma arrive and tell him that, look, now you have to be readied. Please let go of this Chitabhasmam and all of this Pulicharmam, this tiger skin, elephant skin. It's your wedding day. Do you mind? And he says, happily. For Gauri, I will do anything at all. So Brahma and Vishnu dress him up, and when they dress him up, or the pulicharmam, that is the tiger skin, changes into pattu pitambaram, into golden silken clothes, into golden yellow silken clothes. All of the snakes that coil themselves around him suddenly become golden amulets. All of the rudrakshas and the kapalas that he's wearing, the skulls, turn into precious gems, malas of precious gems. All the kundala, Shiva's earrings are two snakes. Those turn into makara kundalas, and those makara kundalas adorn his ears. Each part of him, where the jata jutam was, which is the terrible looking hair that has not been washed for eons, that jata jutam is replaced by a beautiful golden kiritam, and Shiva is now resplendent and he's glowing, and this form of Shiva is Sundareshwara. So now you see the next form of Shiva coming, with Shiva in the center and Brahma and Vishnu, the very epitome of Sundara, because he's about to marry Tripura Sundari. So he also is going to match up to that very beautifully. And he's getting ready over here, and he sends an announcement. He tells Nandi that I want you, Nandi, and all my Ganas to go and make an announcement across the three worlds, saying, tell everybody that Shiva Kalyanam is on way, and tell them that only those people who believe that they are my people should come. So if there's anybody who does not want to be Shiva's person, ask them to stay back. But if they want to be known as my people, then they have to come and join this. So everybody across the Trilokas has gone now to Kailasa, because everybody wants to be on the Bharat side. However, the audience here today can decide whether you want to be on Girija's side or Shankara's side. Both have their own weightage, don't worry. So the Bharat has now started to descend, and Aushadhi Prastham is glowing and growing, and with people, because people are here on this side to receive them as well. Now a very, very beautiful incident is about to occur. As they are getting ready, Himavan and the others from the males of the family, Himavan also has many, many sons, Maina Parvatam and several Vindhyachala Parvatam, etc. They're all sons of Himavan. So they also come for their sister's wedding. And all these males are getting together because at the first entrance of the palace, the males must welcome the Bharat. After that, the females welcome him with a Arti. That is the Sampradayam in Himavan's home. Now it is at this point, when all the arrangements are being made, that Himavan's wife Maina Devi thinks to herself, if I think about it, everybody has seen Shiva. Parvati, of course, saw him because she did tapas and he appeared to her. Himavan also saw him because he used to go and do seva to him every day. I am the only one who has not seen him. And this is a time when Instagram was still not there. So there was no way to go and check his profile to see what he looks like. So she calls one person who is the then equivalent or the forever equivalent of information communication, of social media reach, and she calls Narada and she says, tell me now, how does he look? So Narada describes him as Sundaramurti, and he says he's the most beautiful form you will ever see, and that is how he is. That Adaga Swarupam is so gorgeous to look at. Narada builds up saying, he wears the most beautiful ornaments, and he's coming like this. His Vrishabham is golden, and on that Brahma placed a golden cloth, and Shiva sat on that, and Shiva is holding Vishnu and Brahma by the tip of his little fingers on both sides. They're all walking. All around him, all the devatas are dancing. There's it's like a mountain of gold is coming towards you. And Maina Devi is imagining this scene, and she said, okay, Narada, this is great, but I still don't know how he looks. So we'll do one thing. When all the males are receiving him over there, you wait with me over here and you tell me who is Shiva. I've never seen him before. At least before my Maaple comes, I should know. Before my own Damad comes, I should know who he is, no? So I don't want to look embarrassed. You tell me who he is. So Narada says, okay. And the Bharat slowly starts to come. And Shiva's Bharat will have 5 people or what? Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka he is. He is the one who holds endless galaxies in his control. Everybody is coming. So one by one, they're all streaming in. And Maina Devi's curiosity starts to peak. And she says, is that Shiva? And Narada looks and he says, who? And he sees a very handsome man. And Narada says, that is Shiva's Dasa's Dasa. That is Kubera's son. That is not Shiva. Then she sees another one and she says, who's that? I said, no, that is not him. So he's even more beautiful. He's even more beautiful than that. Narada does the description and build up so much that finally she's really excited to see what is this most handsome groom that is about to be hers. And it is this point Shiva is about to enter closer and he says, oh, Maina Devi wants to see who I am, is it? I will show Maina Devi who I am. And in that moment, all of the Pattu Pitambaram is gone, comes back the Pulicharmam, comes back the flies around the dead skin, comes back the Shashankam was anyway there, comes back the Trishulam, which was not required at the time of the wedding, comes back the Kapala Malas, everything in the most apparently repulsive expression, everything is back. And Vishnu looks to himself and said, good God, do you have to do this now? But Shiva is standing and Narada sees and he says, there, Maina Devi wanted to see Shiva, see. Maina Devi says, where? She says, see, that is Shiva. And he says, yes, that is Sundareshwara. And Maina is so shocked, she collapses. And when she collapses and she faints, she gets her consciousness back in a few seconds and she's so furious. And she says, this father and daughter have made a fool of me, is it? This is the one that my daughter is going to marry? And Maina Devi's anger has no bounds. So she goes straight to Parvati's inner room. She pulls Parvati's hair, the hair that is now anointed and is ready with sandal paste and is completely ready. She has the jada ready of a bride, and she pulls that hair and she beats Parvati. At this point, all of the female attendants of Parvati run to Himavan. Himavan, meanwhile, has welcomed Shiva, and he's waiting for Maina and the other people to welcome him in the second avartana, the second enclosure of the palace. Maina is nowhere to be seen. So one of the attendants comes and tells him that, this has happened. Maina Devi is beating Parvati. We don't know what has happened inside. So Himavan asks Shiva to be excused for a minute, and he goes straight inside and says, what happened? He goes to Maina and he says, what happened? And she says, what is this nonsense? You're going to give my daughter in marriage to that man, to that nomad? Have you seen how he looks? And she wails. And Himavan tries to tell her, he is Parashiva, he is beyond these dualities that you are seeing. It makes absolutely no difference to her. And she says, I will not give my daughter in marriage, send him away. Person after person, Narada comes, tries to talk to her, doesn't make a difference. Parvati tries to talk to her, she says, you keep quiet, all this confusion, you only started. Everybody is talking to Maina Devi, and Himavan is distraught because there is a muhurtam that is in place, there is an entire setup. It is so embarrassing now that his wife has a problem just based on Shiva's appearance. At that point, somebody appears, and only this person can explain Shiva Tattvam. That is Narayana. Narayana's appearance in the story is the idea of Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya Shiva Rupaya Vishnave. Because Shivasya Hridayam Vishnu, Vishnoshcha Hridayam Shivaha. That Shiva lies in Vishnu's Hridayam, Vishnu lies in Shiva's Hridayam. Vishnu knows who Shiva is, nobody else knows. So Vishnu comes to Maina Devi and he says, what is this? What is this noise that you are making? And he explains Shiva Tattvam. And he says, in this world, Maina Devi, there are only dualities. Something that we like, something that we don't like. Within that, you have degrees, what we like, what we don't like. Whatever we don't like is ghora. Whatever we like is aghora. It is not repulsive. There is repulsion, there is attraction. This is a spectrum. But this spectrum is also Shiva. This spectrum, understanding that in this world, a thorn bed is no different from a rose bed. Both of these are Shiva. That is why he was comfortably able to put all these things on him. He has no distinction like that about himself. And Vishnu gets into Shiva Tattva Varnana, and he says, Aghorebhyo, Taghorebhyo, Ghora Ghora Tarebhya, Sarvebhya, Sarvasharvebhyo, Namaste Astu Rudrarupebhya. Everything in this world is Rudra. Everything in this world is Shiva. So all you have to do is acknowledge that, and you will see him. Maina Devi is appeased because Vishnu has come and told her, and she comes out. And then Shiva changes his Vesham again. Narada goes to him and he says, what are you doing? And he says, no, Maina didn't understand who I really am. She thought my beauty is only my physical beauty. So I thought I will teach her some Tattvam. He said, you can teach Tattvam and all after the wedding. No, now only you have to choose, is it? So Shiva is brought inside, but Shiva will teach wherever, Dakshinamurti, he will not let any opportunity go. So Shiva comes inside and the wedding rituals have begun. Now, two beautiful things happen. On one hand, when the wedding rituals begin for Shiva, the Snatakam and other rituals, the other hand, Gauri has to, whenever a wedding happens, there are different kind of acharams that fall into place. So there is Kala acharam, time-based acharams. There is Kranta acharam, what is followed in that particular place. What is followed in Maharashtra may not be followed in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu and Andhra and so on. And there will be differences in customs. So in Himavan's kingdom, one particular custom is that the boy's side must send some jewelry to the girl at the time of the wedding. After the Bharat comes, the boy's side must give some jewelry that the girl is to wear at the time of the Muhurtam. So now, when Parvati is getting ready, she is wearing only finery that is given by her mother's side. Because Shiva's side means all the girls are whispering to each other saying, maximum what will come? One box of snakes. What ornaments are going to come from there? Parvati bites her lip for the third time, thinking, why is it that I always have to hear the Shivaninda? And when she's thinking like this to themselves and all the girls are whispering saying, let's see what the boys' side actually has the audacity to send. What will they even have with them? At that point, they hear anklets. The sound of these anklets is enough to drive away daridram or poverty across the three worlds. The sound of those anklets is what we welcome on every Friday in Shravan Masam. The sound of those anklets belonging to Mahalakshmi herself. Mahalakshmi arrives with a tray full of ornaments and says, I've come from Parashiva's side. These are the ornaments to be given to the bride. Here in this beautiful episode, Parvati smiles to herself, and this episode is told to talk about the idea of how Shiva Aradhana gives Lakshmi Kataksham. Many of you must be familiar with the Pradosham, the Shiva Tandava Stotram that is read at Pradosha Kalam. If you see the last verse of it, it says that those Puja Vasana Samaye Dashavaktra Geetam Yashamphu Pujana Param Patati Pradoshe Tasya Sthiram Ratha Gajendra Turanga Yuktam Lakshmim Sadaiva Sumukhim Pradadati Shambho. Those who read this Pradosha Stotram addressed to Shiva will have the blessing of Lakshmi. Shiva Aradhana always gives Lakshmi Kataksham. That is what is indicated in the story. So Lakshmi gave her Kataksham Kataksham so beautifully over here. And when Lakshmi Kataksham has arrived, Gauri now realizes that I hope everybody's myths about who he is are cleared up completely. But that is not the case, because there are, no matter how much we see Paramatma in front of us, Maya keeps coming. And now he is sitting there. So Gauri is getting ready now, and he's sitting there in the rituals. Then he's sitting there in the rituals. The Agnihotram is being worshipped. At the time of the Agnihotram, Garga Mahamuni, same Garga Mahamuni who has a very important role to play in the Bhagavatam and a host of other scriptures and episodes later, Garga Mahamuni is the Purohita from this side. Brahma is the Purohita from Shiva's side. So Brahma and Garga Mahamuni are sitting opposite each other. Shiva is facing the Agnihotram, and Garga Mahamuni looks at Himavan and he says, I need to say the Sankalpam. I need the groom's name and the groom's Gotram. So Himavan says his name is Parashiva. He says, Adsari, what is his Gotram? So Himavan says, oh, I don't know. And he turns towards Shiva and he taps him gently and he says, tell me your Gotram. Shiva smiles. So Himavan taps him again. He says, Gotram. Shiva smiles again. Third time, Himavan taps him. Shiva smiles again. Himavan is wondering, why is he not telling? It's such an awkward moment. At this time, the third time that Himavan has asked, Narada suddenly starts to play the veena. And Himavan is really irritated. He looks at Narada and he says, can you not do your kacheri later, your veena kacheri? Is this any time to do it? Narada stops playing the veena and he says, what do you think I'm doing? You are asking him repeatedly his Gotram, his Gotram. What does Gotram mean? Gotram means where has he come from? Where has he come from? He has not come from one particular person or one particular set of people. He has come from Nada Parabrahma. He is Omkaram that is manifest. Omkaram took 5 heads. Those became Sadyojata, Vamadeva, Aghora, Tatpurusha, Ishana. Those 5 heads are supported by him. So his Gotram is what? Nada Gotram. That is why Tyagaraja Swami said very beautifully, Nada Tanumanisham Shankaram Namami Me Manasa Shirasa. So this, you want his Gotram is Nada Kula Gotram. A year ago, when we spoke in Thane and Hema Aunty and Anu Aunty and Kamalaka and so many others remember, we spoke about Krishna's Gotram at that time when we were talking about Radha Kalyanam. Krishna's Gotram is said to be Sharanagata Uddhara Gotrodbhavasya. What is his Gotram? What does Krishna belong to? He belongs to a lineage of people, not of people, of devatas, who pick up those who surrender to them. Sharanagata Uddhara Gotrodbhavasya. Gotra is not to be taken literally always. It is to be taken as a symbolic idea. So here Shiva is Nada, completely Nada Parabrahma, who is manifested in form and is ready. So this was the last episode of Tattvam that had to be taught in this particular segment. So now the wedding rituals begin. The Snatakam is over and Gauri is brought. Normally when a wedding happens, a bride does Gauri Puja in different parts of the country. That is a tradition. And now Himavan is thinking, what bhagyam that I have not... She herself does Gauri Puja very interestingly. And when she is brought, he says, not only is she doing Gauri Puja, Gauri herself is manifest for me over here. And Gauri is brought to the Mantapam. The curtain that is present between both of them, as the curtain is brought down, all of the devatas have descended. Everybody is watching, and we are also watching this Kalyanam with them. And we will go through the sequence of some of the beautiful rituals that they both experience together during that Kalyanam. One, as soon as the tera is placed, if you see across various rituals, when the curtain or the veil is kept between the bride and the groom, you will see priests reciting Sumuhurtas Savadhana, Sulagnas Savadhana, Sri Lakshmi Narayana Dhyana Savadhana. Savadhana here is not beware, as it is used typically in Hindi. Here it is attention, pay attention. Because the idea of any wedding, when it happens for a regular couple, is also that Shiva and Shakti or Lakshmi and Narayana enter inside them. The girl does Gauri Puja, she becomes Gauri and comes outside. The boy does Shiva Puja, he becomes Shiva and comes outside. She does Lakshmi Puja, she becomes Lakshmi, and vice versa. So all of this is happening, but here everybody has the bhagyam of seeing Shiva and Shakti themselves get married, and the devatas have waited for this moment for so very long. And as they say, Sumuhurtas Savadhana, Sulagnas Savadhana, Sri Parvati Parameshwara Dhyana Savadhana, the curtain is brought down and Shiva and Shakti exchange a garland. When they exchange the garland, they then proceed towards the rest of the wedding rituals. And each of the wedding rituals is beginning each with its beautiful moment. One of the first rituals that happens is Pani Grahanam, that Shiva has to hold Gauri's hand. And at this point, it's very beautiful that even when they were exchanging malas, Gauri did not have a chance to see him properly because she's so overcome with emotion. She says, this is the one that I have done tapas for so long, and Shiva is also overcome with emotion. So in between their watery eyes, they saw each other, because at their wedding, there weren't photographers stuffing the camera in their face. So they were able to see each other at least. But despite that, they didn't get a full look at each other. So they're still just sitting with the feeling of how does the other feel. And when Shiva has to take her hand for Panigrahanam at the time of Kanyadanam, it is the first time he's touching Gauri's hand. That day when he touched it, Gauri didn't realize it was him. Gauri thought it was the Vriddha Brahmana, and she felt violated by that touch. So now when he holds her, she thinks to herself, this is the hand, Indariki Abhayamulu Ichucheyi, Annamacharya said. This is the hand that is giving the entire universe Abhayam. This is the hand that is supporting all of Akhilanda Koti Brahmandas. This hand is holding mine in marriage, and Gauri gets such a feel of goosebumps on her body. And at that time, Himavan comes to do the Kanyadanam. The Kanyadanam today is interpreted as a feminist, is interpreted as a sexist ritual wherein a girl is represented as if she is an object being transferred from one home to another. But the objectification was never the idea of Kanyadanam, in my opinion. The idea was, even if you look at the shlokas associated with Kanyadanam, it says dharmecha, arthecha, kamecha. In dharma, artha and kama, you need her by your side to be successful. For you to be successful, Janaka Mahipati said the same thing to Rama, saying, you want to be successful, you take her hand. You want to complete Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. You need Moksha as an individual pursuit, but for these three, for you to attain these three, you need her by your side. And Purusha and Prakriti are eternally inseparable. So I am just being a conduit and placing her into your hands. And as Himavan and Maina pour the water into Shiva's hand and he takes Gauri by his side, at this point all of the Saptarishis, all of the Devatas who are watching are so moved by the moment, thinking how long we have waited for this moment to see Shiva and Shakti together, fully happy. Because when Daksha got them married, he was not this happy about it. But Himavan is crying with emotion. On one hand, yes, the father of the bride has a peculiar or a very unmatched sadness that nobody else can ever share, because the parents of a girl know what it is for a girl to move home. And Himavan is feeling that emotion, but at the same time, he's also feeling the joy that which house is she going in? She's going to become Pannaga Abharana Ragni Purani. She's going to be the wife of the one who has Pannaga Abharanas, who has all the yogic siddhis as serpents coiled around him. He's Trilokyadhipati, she's Triloka Mata. Of course, she's going to be happy in that house. And Himavan does the Kanyadanam. As he does the Kanyadanam, Shiva and Shakti perform Ganapati Puja. Now this is interesting. Ganapati Puja performed by Shiva and Shakti at their wedding. This is when we understand. There is a very famous bhakta of Jagannatha called as Tadepalli Raghavanarayana Shastri. He lived a few decades ago. One day when he was sleeping, when he was just about to sleep, Bala Tripura Sundari was his Ishtadevata, so she would keep appearing in front of him. So when he was about to sleep one day, he saw her and he just smiled and he giggled a little and turned the other side. So she tapped him and she said, "What is it?" And he said, no, if I tell you, you won't like it. She said, tell me. And this is an incident that is recorded in his biography. So she says, tell me. And he says, nothing. I was just thinking, you actually had an illegitimate child, I think. And she says, excuse me? And he says, what? You did Ganapati Puja at your wedding, no? So Ganapati was born before your wedding. Before you both got married, you already had a kid, is it? And then Bala Tripura Sundari explains to Raghavanarayana Shastri the idea of Ganapati Tattvam. Of course, he himself was a Jnani, he knows it. But the idea is Ganapati is Pranava Swarupa Vakratundam. He is Omkaram. Shiva, he is the beginning of anything. Shiva and Shakti worshipping Ganapati is just about the idea of them worshipping Omkaram together. So they sat down and they prayed to Omkaram. When they were praying to Omkaram, it is said that Parvati thought, Abba, if this Omkaram comes to me as a child, how fortunate I will be. And exactly 1 month from now, on Vinayak Chaturthi, he will come to her as a child. But that is a later story. So as they perform Ganapati Puja and they begin with the rest of the rituals, the Mangalya Dharana is, the time of the Mangalya Dharanam has come close. Mangalya Dharanam or the Mangal Sutra Dharanam is one of the very important rituals across various traditions. If you look at the Mangalya Dharana, before it happens, in Sanatana Dharma, we have the concept of invoking a deity. So when a deity is invoked into a particular vigraham or a photo or even a small, a small ball of haridra, of turmeric, the deity is invoked, worshipped, and then asked to leave. If you pay attention to the Mangalya Dharana Puja that happens in that particular piece of either turmeric or gold, which it is replaced with nowadays, you will see that Lakshmi and Gauri are considered to be the ruling deities who protect or who kind of support the Mangalyam. When they are invoked, they were never asked to leave. At the end of a puja, Devata is asked to return. Yathasthanam udvasayami. But in a Mangalyam, they are never asked to leave. That is the idea of Mangal Sutram, that they permanently stay back over there and protect that Dampatyam. So when Gauri herself is doing Gauri Avahanam, Shiva is smiling, saying she is inviting herself into the Mangal Sutram. And Shiva takes that Mangalyam and he ties it. And the Mangal Sutra shlokas are so beautiful, both for humans and for Devatas. For humans, it is Mangalyam Tantunanena Mama Jivana Hetunat Kanthe Badhnami Shubhage Tvam Jiva Sharadashatam. That I am tying this on your neck so that both of us will live together for hundreds of years. This is a tune that everybody knows because of the movie Satya, but even before that it existed in Shastric literature. In the case of Devatas, the shloka is slightly different. Mangalyam tantunanena jagat jivana hetunat. I am tying this on your neck for the sake of the worlds, because when we are together, the worlds will come into being. If Shiva and Shakti are separate, there is no universe, there is no world. Mangalyam tantunanena jagat jivana hetunat kanthe badhnami shubhage trailokyam mangalam kuru. That there will be auspiciousness, let there be auspiciousness in the three worlds. That is why Shiva Kalyanam is read, because where there Mangalyam is thought of, where there is Mangalam all around. Sarva Mangalam bhavatu 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 happens in this moment. So he ties that so beautifully around Gauri's neck. And this Mangal Sutram plays such an important role in their own relationship later, when many, many years later, as you all know, in the very famous incident of the churning of the ocean, when Hala comes, everybody runs to Kailasa asking for Shiva to drink it. And in Telugu Bhagavatam, in the Potana Bhagavatam, this moment is very beautiful. Some versions say that Shiva drinks it and Parvati panics, so she holds his neck over here, and that's why it gets stuck over here. But the Potana Bhagavatam took Parvati's approach to this very differently. It says, over there, that beautiful padyam, which I cannot resist saying, says, Mringedi Vadu Vibhundani. She knows that the one who is about to swallow it is her husband. He is about to swallow poison. Mringediyu Garalamaniyu. She knows that it is poison. She knows that it is her husband who is about to swallow poison. But she also knows that it is necessary for the welfare of the people. Otherwise, everybody will die. Melaina Prajakun. Even though it is for the welfare of everybody, she still let her husband swallow poison. But she said, Mringamani Sarvamangala. She says Sarvamangala. Look at the choice. They didn't call her any other name. They called her Sarvamangala and said Sarvamangala told him, drink it, nothing will happen to you. Why? Because she looked at her Mangal Sutram and said, Mangala Sutram Bunenta Madinam Binado. Because she said, my Mangal Sutram is very strong, nothing will happen to you, go. So this is a beautiful idea of Shiva Shakti Dampatyam, that Shiva has a beautiful name of Mrityunjaya. Shakti has a beautiful name of Nitya Suvasini. Nitya Suvasini means she will eternally be a bride. She will never be a widow. So the question that a bhakta asks is, did he become Mrityunjaya? Did he become immortal because she is Nitya Suvasini? Or did she become Nitya Suvasini because he is Mrityunjaya? We don't know. But all we know is that when you bow down to that Mrityunjaya and Nitya Suvasini, they will protect the family that bows down to them. That is the idea in Mangalidharanam that is conveyed so very beautifully. So Mangalidharanam happens. After Mangalidharanam, they take the Saptapadi together. Prior to the Saptapadi, there is a moment, especially in Telugu weddings, you will see this, when the girl's foot is taken, the groom takes the girl's foot and places it on a stone. The stone that is also considered to be Gauramma. And on that stone, he has to then put the toe rings onto her using certain Vedic mantras. Now, Shiva has picked up her feet and he has to place it on the stone. The ritual demands that he puts it down on the stone. Brahma is reading out the mantras. Shiva is not putting down the foot. So Brahma taps him and he says, put down the foot. He says, I don't want to. This is the most delicate feet, more Parijata Gunadhikya Padabjayai Namo Namaha, more delicate than Parijata flowers. If you touch, you'll see how delicate they are. He said, these feet are more delicate than that. You want me to put it on such a stern, such a hard surface? I don't want to. Let me just do this like this. And as this ritual continues and Shiva puts the toe rings on her, they have to take the Saptapadi together. The Saptapadi, the 7 steps that they take together, are 2 of the most beautiful, or 7 of the most beautiful vows that a couple makes together when they embark on a journey together. So I thought for this, it's also important for us to understand what are those 7 steps, because in modern day Kalyanams, most of us go predominantly for the buffet lunches or dinners. So at least at a Shiva Kalyanam, we will understand what is really happening on that Vedikam. And as Shiva takes Parvati's foot, the 7 steps, typically in some customs, 7 small mounds of rice are placed and he takes the wife's foot through 7. In some of them, they step their toes together on 7 different spots. Whichever the custom is, the 7 promises that they make together are very, very, very beautiful. So they are, for the first step that they take together, they say, this step is for strength. Ishe ekapadi bhava, that may we be each other's strength in this journey. The second step that they take together is to live an energetic life together. Urje dvipadi bhava. The third step that they take together is so that they may bring prosperity into their own lives and each other's life. Rayas poshaya tripadi bhava. The fourth step that they take together is so that they may learn to be happy in who they are and they may learn to bring happiness into the other's life. Mayo bhavaya chatushpadi bhava. The fifth step that they take together is so that they may have wonderful children. That is prajabhya panchapadi bhava. And truly they had the best children that are possible at all. And the sixth step that they take together is for all the seasons to come and all of life seasons that may come together. They will be together during those seasons. And it says ritubhya shatpadi bhava. That is the sixth promise. And finally, The seventh promise that they make to each other is that in their entire lives together, this does not apply only to Shiva and Parvati, it applies to any companions that come together. They will be each other's companion, they will be each other's friend, because friendship is considered to be one of the most exalted forms of companionship. That is why the seventh step says, Sakhe Saptapadi Bhava. That is the seventh step that they make together. And as Shiva and Parvati make those seven promises to each other, the wedding slowly comes to a close. The Laja Homam is going on. This is when Laja, or what we use for Bhel Puri, the raw material for Bhel Puri, is offered into the Yagnakundam. And during this ritual, by this time, even in a typical wedding, if you notice, most of the other rituals are over, so people are doing their own thing. So people are not particularly focusing. So even here, it's towards the end of the wedding, so everybody is also doing their own thing, and now Gauri thinks to herself, up till now, I didn't have a chance to see him properly, because every time there was someone else or the other. So I also want to see him, and she tries to look at him. So now, Vame Bhage Dayadra, left side is always Gauri, Parameshwara is this side. So when Parameshwara is seated on the right, the Laja Homam is going on. So during that moment, as the smoke from the Homam comes, Gauri thinks she'll steal a look at him. So when Gauri looks towards her right, she's trying to just look at his face, looking at his, that lotus face that is blooming, just completely blooming. And he notices her. Now she's also shy. So when she's shy in this particular moment, he looks back at her and she immediately looks the other way as if some smoke got stuck in her eye. So Kalidasa speaks about this moment very beautifully, saying they both look at each other constantly like this. And may the looks of love that move between Gauri and Shankara, may those looks of love eternally protect me. So as this wedding comes to a gradual close, as the wedding rituals come to a close, Parvati and Parameshwara are seated on a swing. And as they are sitting there, there's everybody is happy in the three worlds, because this is the moment that everybody waited for. Everybody wanted to see Shiva and Shakti together. And now here they are on the Unjal, so very happy. But there is one person who is unhappy. There is one person who was promised something. And she comes at this moment and she said, I was promised something. She doesn't even have to ask, who is that? That is Rati Devi. As soon as Rati Devi comes, Parvati, through her eyes, recreates Kama, so she earns the name Kama Akshi, Kamakshi, and she says that I will recreate Kama for you, but I will create him with a condition. This time, nobody else except Rati will be able to see him. Hence, he will learn the name Ananga. Anga is part, Anga is one without body, without visible body parts. Because this guy is very handsome. So Rati is actually relieved, because when your husband is so handsome and nobody else can see him, no other woman can see him, only you can see him, good for you. Absolutely no problem in the world. So Ananga comes back to life, Kamadeva is recreated, and in this moment, there is absolute joy all over. Everybody is looking at that couple and everybody is feeling something. Vishnu, who is rocking the Unjal, is seeing both of their hands together and he says, Appa, what a dampatyam, so gorgeous they both look together. And Parvati looks at him and she says, what are you thinking? Just through their eyes, they are brother and sister after all, because Vishnu, in Meenakshi's Kalyanam, Vishnu is the one who does the Kanyadanam as her brother. So here in this moment, in Gauri Kalyanam, he's just rocking the swing and he thinks, Gauri, I was just thinking, what lucky children you will have who will be born to you one day. And she says, Narayana, Sodara, you don't have to think so much. You only will come as both my children. This is another rahasyam. When we talk about those children another day in the future, we'll speak about them. Narayana comes as an Amsha and Ganapati and Muruga to Gauri much later. But in this beautiful moment, as we leave them on the swing, I think it's always powerful to close with a visual, because the idea of this Kalyanam is not just to hear a very enthralling story, it is also to take that vision back with us, because the power of that vision is like keeping karpura or camphor on your hands. Even when you remove the camphor, the scent will remain for long. So the idea is that I want us to all visualize, not I, he wants us to visualize that moment between both of them for a few seconds. And as we do that, I will lead you through some of the shlokas that hold them in that completion, in that togetherness where they are both seated next to each other. And at the end of it, it will make us wonder, are they seated as two different beings or one being that is fused into each other? For this, those of you who feel comfortable, invite you to close your eyes and to pay attention to this. If you feel called out to, you may do that. This is Gauri Shankara Yugala Murti, the joint form of Gauri and Shankara that are present together. If you look at them, they're so beautiful, seated on the swing. He is on the right-hand side, she is on his left-hand side. As they both are seated, they represent such opposites coming together. She is the color of a golden sampige or a golden sampangi hua, a flower, and he is the color of white ash, champeya gaurardhra sharirikaye, karpura gaurardhra sharirikaya. and she glows like a white flower, dhammillakaye, and her hair has mallipus that are beautifully entrained into her braid, whereas he has a jatadharam. Dhammillakaye cha jatadharaya, namah shivaye cha namah shivaya. I bow down to that primordial couple. She has kasturi and kunkuma that are beautifully anointing her forehead, whereas he has chita bhasmam, the bhasmam that is taken from the smashanam, and it is there as vibhuti pundarikam on him. And she is so gorgeous to look at. He is so different to look at. I'm bowing down to that swarupam. Kasturika kunkuma chachitaya, chachitaye, chitarajah punjavi chachitaya, kritasmaraye, vikritasmaraya. My salutations to them. Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. She has the beautiful anklets that make the sound Jhanat Nupura, whereas he has snakes as his anklets on his feet. She has golden ornaments from head to toe, while he has snakes from head to toe. Jhanat Vanat Kankanan Nupuraye, Padabjaraja Pani Nupuraya, Hemangadaye, Bhujagangadaye, Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. Her eyes look like two beautiful blue lotuses that have just bloomed, and his eyes look like two lotuses. Hers look like water lilies, his look like pink lotuses that have just bloomed. Vishala Nilotpala Lochanaye, Vikasi Pankheru Halochanaya. She has two even eyes, and he has three eyes. Samekshanaye, Vishamekshanaya, Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. She has a beautiful mala of mandaras that she is wearing, whereas he has a kapalas or skulls that he is wearing as a mala. Mandara mala kalitalakaye, kapala mala ankita kandharaya. She is so, her entire being is covered by divinity, and his entire being covers the directions. Divyambaraye cha digambaraya, Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. She has the hair tresses that are making up the entire universe. Ambodhara Shyamala Kuntalaye, such so dark, and they are the dark rain-bearing clouds, whereas his dark jatajutam is coppery in color. Ambodhara Shyamala Kuntalaye, Tatiprabha Tamra Jatadharaya. There is no one who is superior to her, Nirishwaraye, and he is the Lord of the universe, Nikhileshwaraya, Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. If you look at both of them, she is responsible for creation, Prapancha Srishtyun Mukhalasyakaye, and he is responsible for dissolution, Samasta Samharaka Tandavaya. She is the mother of the universe, Jagat Jananye. He is the father, Jagadeka Pitre. My salutations to both of them, Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. And finally, she has the most beautiful tatankas, the most beautiful earrings on her ears, Pradeeparatno Jwala Kundalaye, whereas he has snakes on his ears, Spurad Maha Pannaga Bhushanaya. If you look at them, she is complete only when she is with him, and he is complete only when he is with her. Shivanvitaya cha, Shivanvitaya. I finally bow down to them with my mind, my heart, and my speech. Namah Shivaya cha, Namah Shivaya. This is how the prayer of Shiva Kalyanam concludes with the Ardhanarishwara Stotram of Adi Shankaracharya. It shows how beautifully the dance of Shiva and Shakti is eternal. Shiva Kalyanam is not an ordinary katha. It is a katha that is so powerful that those who hear it take the power back into their lives. And believe it or not, it is by Swami Sankalpam that every single person who is present here is completely by design. There is no accident, there is no coincidence. There were people who are meant to be here, but ranging from the last 2 days for whatever reasons they could not. And there were people in the last minute who wanted to be here by Swami Sankalpam, and Swami pulled them. So literally this wedding is by invite only, and this entire sabha is fortunate to have been invited. Shiva Kalyanam, where it is read, where it is said, there is Adhyatmika, Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika Shanti. There is peace in the three realms of our existence. There is peace that holds us as we go through our own life with all its various challenges and ups and downs. Shiva and Shakti are eternally present in our lives, but it is through their stories that they make their presence felt. The various grahas, there are various graha doshas that we all carry within us. Shiva Kalyanam not only removes Kuja Graha Dosham, it removes Shani Graha Dosham. There were some parts that were connected to removing Shani Graham Dosham and various others. Today is also Shanivaram. Anjaneya Swami story also came for us today, Shanivaram. Mahaganapati came for us today, Sankashtahara Chaturthi. Every part of this Kalyanam came completely by his Sankalpam, and this Sankalpam manifested through Hema Aunty and Kannan Uncle's strong desire to have this, and my deepest gratitude to this Dampati for making all of this happen. Because like I said in the beginning, when we had envisioned an afternoon or an evening together, Shiva Kalyanam was not on the thought process, but as they say, Tanme Mana Shiva Sankalpamastu. That was the Lord's Sankalpam. So along with Hema Aunty and Kannan Uncle, Samskriti School of Dance came together so beautifully to support this entire evening, this entire afternoon, with the dancers that you saw so beautifully who invoked Ganapati and the phenomenal dance. When I was speaking of the street dancer that danced in Aushadhi Prastham, I was reminded of the beautiful dance that we saw here before that. So for each of you, it is said that every step that one makes walking towards Shiva Kalyanam, even if you walked only from the lift till here, every step carries a certain amount of punyam, because it's a bhakta waiting to be one with Shiva. That is the idea of Girija waiting to be one with Parameshwara. So by Girija's Sankalpam, we are all here. By Gauri Natha's Sankalpam, we are all leaving here, listening to this entire Kalyanam, taking it back in our hearts. May this Kalyanam sustain us in our every pursuit, in our every part of our life. And with that, to the Devatas who are present in the Sabha, as all of you, and to Gauri and Shankara who are listening to their own Kalyana Ghattam, offering this to the Pada Padmas of Sri Parvatavardhini Sameta Sri Ramanatha Swami Parabrahma. Sarvam Sri Jagadamba Padaravindarpanamastu. Swasti.